Chapter 607. How is it? The top of the holy pillar isn't as vast as you think, right? Shenhuyue walked over from behind. His head was still bleeding profusely, and it didn't look like it was going to stop at all. Jinyuan raised his eyebrows. Is Lord Shen sure you don't need to stop the bleeding? As I said before, I'll keep bleeding until the antlers grow back. It's no use whether I block it or apply medicine. Shenhuyue smiled. Senior Immortal Jinyuan, you don't have to worry too much about me. My self-healing ability is also very strong. Losing blood while making blood is actually the same as exchanging blood. I think it's pretty healthy. Jinyuan, Loopy Toad, what if *** King healthy? Loopy Toad looked around in disappointment and deliberately put on an old-fashioned expression. I never thought the Grand Demon Saint would actually have such a small space. This is a rule set by first-generation Demon Saint. Everyone sleeps in a bed and dies in a box. There's no need for such a large space at all. First-generation Demon Saint was more concerned about the proper use of space, Shenhuyue replied. Shenhuyue answered. Blood had already flowed down his white robe, gradually soaking it and turning it from white to red. Doesn't the successor Demon Saint have the right to change it? The former Demon Saint's rules can only last for 2 generations at most. If second-generation Demon Saint sets any rules now, the 3rd and 4th generations don't have the right to change them. Only the 5th-generation Demon Saint has the right, Shenhuyue answered. I see. Dog 2 nodded. At that moment, its and Jinyuan's expressions changed slightly as they sensed that someone was coming. A very powerful aura came out of Demon Saint's holy palace in front of them. It was a blue-skinned humanoid demon, also known as a transvestite. This transvestite held a scepter in his hand, and the fish scales on his azure skin glowed brilliantly. Just from this aura, Dog 2 and Jinyuan had already guessed who this person was. As expected of second-generation Demon Saint, your aura is indeed much more powerful than your virtual body. Immortal Jinyuan smiled slightly. Of course, this was just a polite remark. In his mind, the strongest person would always be his senior dog. Likewise. Second-generation Demon Saint curled the corners of his mouth, then stepped aside to make way for them. Seniors, welcome to the Holy Palace. This was Loopy Toad's first time seeing Demon Saint, and to be honest, this image was really too different from what it had imagined. Not only did he have blue skin, he also had scales on his body. So second-generation Demon Saint's original form was a tropical ornamental fish? Seeing that, Senior Dog was in a daze, Jinyuan asked with great concern, What's wrong, Senior Dog? I'm fine. Dog 2 shook its head and said in a low voice, I was just wondering why the second-generation Demon Saint's color was so strange. Jinyuan, second-generation Demon Saint and Sage Master Shenhuyue were startled. A dog with such a strange color actually had the nerve to talk about others. Just as Buttface had expected, the Demon Saint's holy palace didn't use any spells that could expand space, perfectly implementing the first Demon Saint's concept of space. The banquet had already been set up in the holy palace, which wasn't too big. After everyone took their seats, Dog 2 saw 2 girls in maid outfits walk out from behind the curtains of the main hall of the holy palace. Jinyuan's eyes lit up. You have other people here? They're just puppets made from demon earth and don't have their own consciousness. Although the holy palace is small, we still need some people to order around. Shenhuyue smiled. There are 10 puppets like this in the holy palace, and they're all very exquisite. They were all personally made by second-generation Demon Saint, and there are all kinds of them. Mature women, Lolas, mature women, young married women. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan, second-generation Demon Saint. Before I became Demon Saint, I actually made puppets for a living. Shenhuyue was blank. Don't you sing Allegro? Second-generation Demon Saint, that's what I did before I made puppets. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan, just from this simple conversation, Loopy Toad and Jinyuan could already guess that this sage master Shenhuyue definitely liked to tear down second-generation Demon Saint's stage. This inevitably made Loopy Toad and Jinyuan sympathize with second-generation Demon Saint even more. In the end, before their sympathy was over, Shenhuyue started to tear down the stage again. Seniors, I have something very interesting to tell you. Shenhuiyue looked at Loopy Toad and Jinyuan with a comical expression. Second-generation Demon Saint was so excited when he made them back then. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan. At that moment, Loopy Toad turned its gaze to second-generation Demon Saint. For some reason, it felt that there was something wrong with second-generation Demon Saint's expression, as if he was very sad. Jinyuan, what's wrong with Demon Saint? Nothing. Shenhuiyue shook his head. Maybe he's lost in the pain of making puppets back then. Didn't you say that Demon Saint was very excited? Jinyuan thought it was very strange. He was very excited before, but when second-generation Demon Saint realized that these puppets were cold from head to toe after they were formed, he couldn't get excited at all. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan, when they heard the word cold, Loopy Toad and Jinyuan's sympathy for Demon Saint was almost full. As a Demon Saint, first of all, his freedom was restricted by the Holy Pillar's restriction, and then he was trapped by first-generation space restriction rule. As a result, Demon Saint's Holy Pillar didn't have the slightest bit of grandeur from the square to the Holy Palace. In the end, the Sage Master next to him had to tear him down every day. Loopy Toad felt that the most pitiful thing was still the puppets. Judging from the finesse of these puppets made from Demon Earth, whether it was their facial features or each strand of hair or even each part that should be plump. Second-generation Demon Saint had obviously carried out very precise arrangements and calculations in order to make these puppets look realistic enough. As a Demon Saint who had already lost his freedom and grandeur, it actually wasn't so bad to have so many puppets to keep him company. But in the end, second-generation Demon Saint had no choice but to admit a tragic fact, and that was that after these puppets were enlightened, they were cold, they couldn't be used at all. I've already taken off my pants, and this is what you show me? At this thought, whether it was Loopy Toad or Jinyuan, they already felt sympathy for Demon Saint. Chapter 608. Loopy Toad had always thought that Demon Saint was a weirdo, but it had never expected Shenhuiyue, this old man, to be even weirder. Logically speaking, there was no freedom or space here, and his assistant officer could come and undermine him at any time. Loopy Toad felt that it would go crazy if it stayed here any longer, not to mention the restrictions of the Holy Pillar. The Demon Saint that was trapped here. Seniors, please sit down. Unlike second-generation Demon Saint's expression, Shenhuiyue smiled like an idiot, and his grin was even more brilliant than a lotus flower. Blood continued to gush out of his head. Then Shenhuiyue waved his hand. Hey! Same rules, Thunder Mother and Ramu, bring the things over. Right after that, Loopy Toad saw two little Lolitas carrying large basins come to Shenhuiyue's sides and start to use them to collect the blood gushing out of Shenhuiyue's head. Loopy Toad, Jinyuan, furthermore, these two basins weren't ordinary basins. Although Shenhuiyue's blood continued to pour into the basins, it didn't overflow. Shenhuiyue smiled. I've made quite a few basins like this to deal with situations like this. Every time I have to use a big spell, I have to remove the antlers and activate the energy stored inside. It doesn't hurt much, but it's quite troublesome. So, Senior Dog and Senior Immortal Jinyuan, do you know why I'm usually unwilling to go down to receive people? Loopy Toad, Jinyuan, a lot of blood was one thing, but the main thing this old man Shenhuiyue was that he was afraid of trouble. So under normal circumstances, if he wasn't receiving an important guest, Shenhuiyue absolutely wouldn't remove the antlers so easily. On the other side, the two little puppet maids were expressionless as they held the basins very easily to collect Shenhuiyue's blood. It was obvious that they were already very used to it. Jinyuan found it very strange as he looked at Shenhuiyue and asked, "What do you plan to do with this blood after collecting it?" Shenhuiyue, isn't that simple? Sell it to the hot pot restaurant. Loopy Toad and Jinyuan, my blood isn't as valuable as Lord Demon Saint's, but it's still dear blood. Palpitations, insomnia, and backache can all be treated. Speaking up to here, Shenhuiyue said with a slightly reminiscing expression, actually, when the first-generation Demon Saint had just succeeded back then, the first-generation Demon Saint didn't take over. Our sacred palace is often short of funds. That's why I often sell dear blood to raise funds for our holy palace's activities. Of course, I was forced. Forced? Yeah. The first-generation demon saint was very Buddhist. Not only did he limit the size of the holy palace, but he also often helped the poor demon citizens. The taxes collected by our sacred palace were all used to build the Western region. Aren't there still plans for the Western region these days? It was proposed by the first generation. As long as one's academic results were good enough and had the standard of a postgraduate student, they could apply. Last year, we received a total of more than 2,000 demon monarchs. Jin Yuan raised an eyebrow. Demon King? Yeah. If he wasn't a demon king, his diploma wasn't enough. Generally, only those who had reached the demon king realm could obtain a postgraduate diploma. Furthermore, not everyone could participate in the Western plan. There's a total of 6 rounds of interviews, which means killing a large number of demon kings, Shen Huiyue said. Jin Yuan, then what are the benefits of participating in this plan? In addition to developing the demon world and contributing to it, we have an evaluation form for these demon kings who successfully go to the West to support the construction. Their tribe points can be increased based on their contribution. Shen Huiyue smiled. Although the demon race's outer territories are divided into 96 territories, they are also ranked. Every 5 years, the top 3 tribes in the outer territories will be compared with the bottom 3 tribes in the central territory, and the tribe with the strongest overall strength will be promoted to the central territory. Hearing this, Loopy Toad was suddenly enlightened. Because it hadn't been on the throne for long when it had been in the sky-swallowing Toad clan, it didn't understand this situation at all. Listening to Shen Huiyue now, it understood. It turned out that tribes could also be upgraded. Loopy Toad noticed that when Shen Huiyue said this, second-generation demon saint's expression was one of deep bitterness and hatred. As if someone owed him millions. Then, Loopy Toad heard Shen Huiyue continue, actually, His Excellency second-generation demon saint was one of the volunteers for the construction of the Western region back then. Furthermore, he took a Didi Shun Feng demon car over, and was raped on the way. Loopy Toad's and Jin Yuan's hearts couldn't take it anymore. Wait? Rape? This pervert's taste was so heavy. And then? Although second-generation demon saint was still a weak chicken at that time, it was a piece of cake for him to deal with a rapist. He directly castrated him. Back to business, there have actually always been plans for the construction of the Western region, not just in the demon world, but also in the human cultivation world. Shen Huiyue paused for a moment, then said, the reason why we're talking about the construction of the human cultivation world and the demon world is because. Actually, the most important reason is related to the topic we're discussing this time. When Shen Huiyue said this, Loopy Toad and Jin Yuan knew that the real point was coming. Although blood was still spurting out of Shen Huiyue's head, his expression was completely different from before. He suddenly became serious. What I'm going to talk about next has to do with the sustainable development of the human cultivation world and the demon world. I hope seniors can listen carefully. Loopy Toad raised its eyes. Tell me about it. Shen Huiyue looked at second-generation demon saint, who then said, it's like this, senior dog, senior immortal Jin Yuan. Not long ago, Sage Master and I discovered a space fisher in the demon world. At the mention of the space fisher, immortal Jin Yuan's expression changed slightly. Because he was in fact the one who had caused so many space fishers in the demon world all these years. Before he had created the gate between worlds, the spatial structure of the demon world had actually been very stable, and it was impossible for space fishers to appear at all. Second-generation demon saint, seniors, you definitely know that ever since a goddamn human cultivator created the gate between worlds, the spatial structure of our demon world has been messed up. A few fissures appear every now and then. Loopy Toad and Jin Yuan, what was the furthest distance between people? At that very moment, a goddamn person was sitting in front of you, but you didn't know it at all. Although he felt a little guilty, Jin Yuan's acting skills weren't for show. He did his best to remain calm and didn't notice anything unusual at all. What's so special about these new space fishers? Jin Yuan asked. That's what I want to say. Sage Master and I previously thought that they were new fishers because of fluctuations from the gate between worlds. But according to our investigation, we realized that these space fissures weren't formed because of the gate between worlds. Not because of the gate between worlds? Yes. Chapter 609. Demon Saint's title was very interesting to Jinyuan. Monster? What's that? Aren't you a monster yourself? Second-generation Demon Saint found himself unexpectedly speechless. Of course, Jinyuan was just joking. What on earth was this thing that Demon Saint of the demon world called a monster? Jinyuan was a little curious. First of all, it couldn't be an ordinary demon beast, spirit beast or devil beast, otherwise Demon Saint wouldn't have called it a monster. At the mention of this monster, the expressions on both second-generation Demon Saint and Sage Master Shenwuyue's faces changed slightly to show lingering fear. At the same time, Dog 2's curiosity was piqued. After all, the two people standing here right now were the two most powerful existences in the demon world. One was the current Demon Saint and the other was Sage Master's assistant. If it was just an ordinary creature, it would be impossible for them to feel fear at all. Although second-generation Demon Saint wasn't the strongest Demon Saint of all time, after merging with the consciousness of the holy pillar of the demon world, his current true immortal strength could rival that of a venerated immortal. With the willpower of an entire world in hand, there were actually very few things that could make someone at Demon Saint's realm afraid. Dog 2 gazed at second-generation Demon Saint and Shenwuyue. I want to know what on earth this monster is. I'm afraid it's very difficult to explain this monster with words alone. I invited Senior Dog and Senior Immortal Jinyuan here this time in the hope that both seniors can help us take a look at what this monster is. Second-generation Demon Saint said. How? The corners of Jinyuan's lips curled up slightly, revealing his canine teeth, and he was a little curious. We already killed it. Suddenly, Jinyuan felt a little disappointed. What? How did it die just like that? Didn't you say it was a monster? At that moment, second-generation Demon Saint suddenly untied his robe to reveal his chest, which gleamed with fish scales. Dog 2's eyes were almost blinded. Jinyuan hurriedly covered his eyes. Second-generation Demon Saint, please reconsider. I don't have this kind of hobby. Second-generation Demon Saint, Senior, you misunderstand. Please open your eyes and look at the wound on my chest. It was caused by that monster. Ancestor Jinyuan loosened his grip and looked at second-generation Demon Saint's chest with loopy toad's eyes. Second-generation Demon Saint's chest and right shoulder actually had countless hideous teeth marks. The monster had at least a few hundred teeth. How long has this wound been there? Buttface asked curiously. It's already been half a month. The Sacred Master and I have tried everything we can, but we're still unable to heal this wound, an unrecoverable wound? Immortal Jinyuan sucked in a breath. If this was the case, then the problem was much more complicated than he had imagined. The true immortal realm was completely different from the other realms, because the true immortal realm's spiritual power had a very powerful regenerative property. In battle, as long as it was a wound on the skin, it would quickly recover. Loopy Toad was naturally aware of this. In this world, there were many magic treasures or spells with the attribute of serious damage, which could prevent wounds from healing. But the point was that the person whose wound couldn't be healed was second-generation Demon Saint. Second-generation Demon Saint's current realm. Loopy Toad could only think of these two ways to inflict irreparable wounds on second-generation Demon Saint's body. Furthermore, to Loopy Toad's current limited knowledge, this was indeed the strongest method that could effectively block rapid recovery. The first method was Little Silver's spit. The other was Little Master Ling's primordial chi, but it was clear that Demon Saint's wound hadn't been caused by Little Silver or Little Master Ling. Loopy Toad's interest was instantly piqued. What about the monster's body? Let me take a look. It already had a guess in its heart, but didn't dare make any careless assertions. It needed to confirm it with its own eyes before it could believe it. In fact, Loopy Toad felt that Jinyuan should have also sensed it. After that, Shenwuyue clapped his hands, and two puppets with very beautiful figures but very cold bodies carefully carried a crystal tank into the main hall. This tank couldn't be considered too big. Its mouth only had a radius of 1 meter, but it weighed 10,000 tons, and it was sealed with a fairly thick membrane. Half a month ago, after second-generation Demon Saint and Shinwei had gotten rid of this monster, they had thrown its body into this crystal tank and sealed it. This crystal tank was first-generation Demon Saint's bathtub, and it's made of a very special material. At that time, we turned Demon Saint's holy palace upside down, but really couldn't find a magic artifact more suitable for sealing this monster's body, said Shinwei. Even though it had already been half a month, Shinwei was still a little frightened when he recalled the scene of the monster's appearance. Everyone gathered around this crystal tank, and second-generation Demon Saint began to recall what had happened half a month ago. Half a month ago, Sage Master and I discovered an abnormal space fissure. I used magic to move it into the holy temple, intending to mend it, but I never thought that a monster would actually jump out of it. How was the monster killed later? Before looking at the monster's body, Jinyuan wanted to get to the bottom of this first. At that time, I was ambushed by this monster and was already injured. Sage Master and I then joined forces, but who would have thought that this monster would be extremely tough and difficult to deal with? Second-generation Demon Saint said, in the end, Sage Master and I joined hands to pray and summon the holy pillar to forcibly kill it. Speaking up to this point, Shinwei also sighed. Summoning the holy pillar to forcibly kill it is actually very damaging to Lord Demon Saint's lifespan. Furthermore, each generation of Demon Saint can only use it 3 times at most. Dog 2 and Jinyuan nodded. One man and one dog had already come to a conclusion in their hearts. If this monster was really as terrifying as second-generation Demon Saint said, it should indeed attract the attention of both the demon world and the human world, since the demon planet and Earth were currently connected through the gate between worlds. Since this kind of abnormal and unknown fissure which could produce monsters could appear in the demon world, it was also possible that it could appear in the human world. Let's look at the monster first. Loopy Toad narrowed its eyes. Shinwei nodded and raised his hand to remove the seal around the crystal tank. Loopy Toad floated in the air and looked inside the tank with Jinyuan. Then, they saw a 1-meter-long black fish with a mouth full of sharp teeth inside the crystal tank. Is this a catfish? Loopy Toad was cursing in its heart when it heard Jinyuan exclaim, "A Kuan? What the hell? Who made a mistake in refining this multi-fanged Kuan?" Loopy Toad, second-generation Demon Saint. Chapter 610. Looking at the carcass of this already dead multi-fanged Kuan, it was just a seedling in its development period. Even so, the multi-fanged Kuan was already very lethal. It had actually been able to leap out of space and injure Demon Saint, forcing Demon Saint and Sage Master to use the power of the Holy Pillar to annihilate it. It sounded a little outrageous, but it was the truth. Senior Immortal Jinyuan is saying that this is a Kuan? Second-generation Demon Saint and Shinwei turned pale with fright. They had never seen a Kuan before, because it was an extinct prehistoric creature that had gone through several great eras before suddenly disappearing en masse, not even leaving a corpse behind. After that, these prehistoric creatures were declared extinct. At that time, it wasn't just the Kuan, but also the Qilin, phoenix, dragon, and other prehistoric creatures. It was just that the Kuan had been the first to go extinct. There were many types of Kuan, and the multi-fanged Kuan was just one of them, known for its powerful physical lethality. Furthermore, the biggest characteristic of these prehistoric creatures was that the energy sources in their bodies were very diverse and could change according to their environment. After the seal was removed, Dog 2 saw that Jinyuan had already activated his immortal eye, and impatiently used his power of sight to examine this multi-fanged Kuan. Even without that abnormal space crack, the fact that a prehistoric creature at the level of the multi-fanged Kuan could actually reappear was already shocking enough. This is a Kuan, and a baby multi-fanged Kuan at that. Immortal Jinyuan frowned. He emphasized the word baby, because this was enough to prove that this multi-fanged Kuan hadn't been born for very long. Or to think about it from another perspective. Perhaps in a certain corner of the universe, these extinct primordial creatures had most likely built a home. Actually, no matter what the truth was, the appearance of this multi-fanged Kuan was a big discovery. Thinking this, Jinyuan couldn't help turning to look at Loopy Toad. Senior Dog should have sensed it as well, right? Loopy Toad knew that Jin Yuan was referring to this multi-fanged Kuan's energy source. Loopy Toad couldn't be more familiar with this energy source, and it was certain that it wasn't wrong. The smell of this energy source was exactly the same as the primordial chi it had sensed from Little Master Ling. This was also the main reason why Monster Saint could not recover for a while after being attacked. The lethality of the origin of chi was very strong. It was far from enough to simply use monster power and spiritual power to repair the cells. Primordial chi wasn't unique to Wang Ling. He had confirmed it with immortal Jin Yuan before, and it turned out that after a cultivator reached venerated immortal level, they could indeed activate primordial chi as a second source apart from spirit energy. However, this second energy source was quite limited in the body of an immortal venerable. Things have really become troublesome, but Face looked at the carcass of the baby multi-fanged Kuan and sniffed it carefully. He felt that there was something else mixed on this multi-fanged Kuan's body. He ordered Jin Yuan to turn the multi-fanged Kuan over, and then his eyes abruptly focused on its belly. There's something here. Immortal Jin Yuan focused his immortal eye on it, and was immediately startled. There really is something. As expected of Senior Dog. This was truly awesome. In fact, Dog 2 hadn't seen anything. The reason why it had felt that there was something was purely based on its sense of smell and intuition. What is it? Second generation Demon Saint asked. He and Shen Weiyue had already examined the multi-fanged Kuan's carcass inside out many times, but hadn't found anything out of the ordinary. There's a thread there, 3 inches below the belly, Immortal Jin Yuan said. Thread? Second generation Demon Saint and Shen Weiyue also started to use their powers of sight to search carefully. Their powers definitely weren't as strong as Jin Yuan's, but with Jin Yuan's directions, sure enough, they saw a floating thread. This thread was as thin as a gossamer and was translucent. Furthermore, the end of the thread had already been pulled off, and it was impossible to detect at all if one didn't look carefully. Loopy Toad had felt that the other sense on this multi-fanged Kuan had come from this thread. Does Senior Dog think of anything? Everyone stared at the thread in deep thought. Dog 2 suddenly thought of something very frightening. I'm thinking, could this thread be a fishing line? Everyone's expressions changed at this guess. Fishing line? Senior Dog, do you mean, this baby multi-fanged Kuan is just bait? Someone deliberately connected the fishing line to this multi-fanged Kuan and used the space to fish? Second generation Demon Saint said. This was just a theory, but looking at the current results, it wasn't impossible. If this was really the case, then this already wasn't as simple as fishing, but was using this method to kill someone. The crux of the problem was the identity and purpose of this angler. This was an unknown enemy, and they currently had no information on this unknown enemy at all. Where on earth had this multi-fanged Kuan come from, where had it been raised in captivity, and so on? They currently didn't have clear answers to a series of questions. But if it really had been raised in captivity, then the identity of this mysterious angler was very frightening. Furthermore, a Kuan was just a type of prehistoric vicious beast. Who knew if the people who raised these vicious beasts were also raising other monsters? If Senior Dog deals with this angler, what are your chances of winning? Immortal Jin Yuan asked. Loopy Toad, probably. Who knew what Little Master Ling's chances of winning were? To be exact, it was Little Master Ling's chances of winning. The point was that Little Master Ling wasn't around right now, so Loopy Toad didn't dare speak too confidently, as expected of Senior Dog. You can actually win. Sage Master and I have no chance at all. Second generation Demon Saint said. Loopy Toad, Sage Master and I were discussing whether our 2 worlds should join forces to deal with this unknown opponent. Since Senior Dog can handle it on its own, that's for the best. Second generation Demon Saint was extremely excited. I've decided, from today onwards, I'm going to be a dog bragger. Loopy Toad, Jin Yuan, as expected of Senior Dog. As long as Senior Dog makes a move and snaps your fingers, the other side should be done for, right? Loopy Toad, snaps your sister. I'm not Thanos. May 12th, Wenchuan's 10th anniversary. Today's Wenchuan was full of life. Hibiscus blossoms were still the same, magnolia blooming purple, and everything was beautiful. Question: what were you doing that day 10 years ago? Chapter 6:11. Loopy Toad realized that the situation seemed to have spiraled out of its control. If it really had to take action later, its identity would definitely be exposed. Dog 2 wanted to cry but had no tears. If it had known earlier, it wouldn't have come up. Looking at Loopy Toad's conflicted expression, Jinyuan already knew that this enemy wouldn't be easy to deal with. This was Senior Dog. How strong was an enemy that could make Senior Dog frown? Thus, when Jinyuan saw Senior Dog frown, he knew that things weren't simple. Can you find out the origin of this Kuan space? Jinyuan asked as he looked at Shenhuiyue. He knew that Shenhuiyue's perception was very strong, and surpassed that of ordinary human cultivators and even demon saint. This was also one of Shenhuiyue's specialties. He was proficient in perception and deduction. But it was very clear that even Shenhuiyue found the origin of this Kuan extremely troublesome. He sighed. After this multi-fanged Kuan was annihilated by the power of the Holy Pillar, I already started to investigate, but it'll take 3 to 5 days for the results to come out. The search range is really too wide, and my perception can't pinpoint its exact location. I can only roughly know which district it's from outside the Milky Way. Is that so? Jinyuan cupped his chin in his hand and frowned. Actually, even if he could find out which district it was from, it wouldn't be very meaningful. There were hundreds of millions of different planets in one district outside the Milky Way. How long would it take to search? Even if he had already shortened the search range, this was no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. The Milky Way outside the Milky Way was too big. Although true immortals had the ability to travel outside the Milky Way, no true immortal dared go too far. Everyone knew this in their hearts. Back then, immortal Jinyuan had wandered outside the Milky Way for 1,000 years, but hadn't even covered 1/10 of the distance. If a true immortal had to travel for 1,000 years, given the extreme lack of spirit chi of heaven and earth, it would already be too much for him to handle after a few hundred years. If he really had to wander around outside the Milky Way, it was useless even if you bought a universal insurance policy. As long as a family member didn't issue a death certificate, the body would slowly turn into dust in the universe. In any case, Loopy Toad already felt that it couldn't handle this matter on its own. It needed Little Master Ling to take action. If this matter was not taken seriously, it might really cause a great calamity in the future. It was very likely that this angler was rearing a large number of extinct primordial beasts. Although he didn't know the true identity of this angler, whether he was a human, a demon, or an extraterrestrial being from the Milky Way, it was obvious that this angler was not easy to deal with. This was because the primordial ferocious beasts under this person's command all used primordial true chi as their main energy source. Just this point alone was enough to make most of the cultivators in the human world suffer. After all, Little Master Ling's slap back then had only contained a bit of primordial chi, but Evil Sword God had been beaten so badly that even his own mother wouldn't have been able to recognize him. Now, all of these primordial vicious beasts were using origin true chi as their main energy source. One could imagine just how lethal they were. Second-generation Demon Saint and Shenhuiyue called these prehistoric vicious beasts monsters, which Loopy Toad thought was quite appropriate. It looks like Senior Dog is very confident. Shenhuiyue looked at Loopy Toad and asked. Loopy Toad feigned a profound nod. As if, Loopy Toad, I'll think of a way to find that angler, but I need to go back and look up some information first. I'll have to ask Little Master Ling about this first. That's good. Second-generation Demon Saint and Shenhuiyue nodded. Although they had never seen this Senior Dog, who could casually cast a level 13 spell like Immortal Jinyuan had said, since it was a great senior whom Immortal Jinyuan had acknowledged, second-generation Demon Saint and Shenhuiyue could only trust it now. However, this matter wasn't over yet, because they didn't know what this angler's objective was. Whether releasing such a primordial vicious beast was to hunt or to test the waters before the invasion, no one knew. In the face of this kind of unknown enemy, it was one thing not to act rashly, but one also had to be vigilant. If this mysterious angler invaded with a large number of prehistoric vicious beasts, neither the demon world nor the human world would be able to escape. At that time, it would be a huge catastrophe. So in this situation, Loopy Toad could only find an excuse to slip away first. Loopy Toad's train of thought was very clear. It had to look for little Master Ling. Blood was still gushing out of Shenwuyue's head, but his thoughts were pretty clear. He took out 2 golden talismans from his lapel and gave them to Immortal Zhenyuan and Loopy Toad. Senior Dog, Senior Immortal Zhenyuan, these are the golden talismans of my Demon Saint's holy palace. If there's anything you want to know, you can come to my Demon Saint's holy palace through this golden talisman at any time. This golden talisman also has the ability to send messages. If I find any clues here, I'll inform you right away. There's actually something like this. Immortal Zhenyuan took the Demon Saint golden talisman and looked it up and down curiously. He sensed it and found the aura of the holy pillar inside. Was this made with the power of the holy pillar? That's right, 2nd generation Demon Saint quickly replied. Furthermore, only Demon Saint can make talismans. This Demon Saint golden talisman is equivalent to a pass to the demon world. As long as you 2 seniors want to come, you can come at any time, and the first destination is Demon Saint's holy palace. But with this golden talisman, you can go to any corner of the demon world at will. Seeing the golden talisman is the same as seeing Demon Saint himself. All demon beasts, including demon kings and demon gods, have to respect it, otherwise they'll be punished by the restriction. Speaking up to this point, 2nd generation Demon Saint sighed. In fact, a long time ago, 1st generation Demon Saint planned to mass-produce the golden talismans and send them to the human cultivation world to establish diplomatic relations with the heads of state of various countries. Our demon world has always wanted to establish a peaceful relationship with the human cultivation world. If it had been fixed earlier, we would have been able to come up with a plan together when we run into difficulties like today. Unfortunately, this plan was later cancelled. Zhenyuan, why was it cancelled? 2nd generation Demon Saint, wasn't it because some damn person created the gate between worlds and directly connected to the demon world? Loopy Toad and Zhenyuan, 2nd generation Demon Saint, not only did this gate between worlds disrupt our original plan, it also destroyed the spatial order of our demon world. Our few demon world diplomats just wanted to go out and take a look, but in the end, they were beaten up and had to scurry back like rats. 2nd generation Demon Saint spoke with great bitterness and deep hatred, and even Shenwuyue's face was full of helplessness. I've searched for a lot of information all these years, but I haven't been able to find out who the creator of the gate between worlds was. There are also rumors that you, Senior Immortal Zhenyuan, created the gate between worlds. The corners of Zhenyuan's mouth twitched. Me? How could it be me? I'm so kind, that's right. How could it be Senior Immortal Zhenyuan? Senior is so kind. Shenwuyue shrugged and said, but it doesn't matter, I actually cursed this creator before. Zhenyuan, curse? Shenwuyue, I cursed him to be haunted by a mental demon. Loopy Toad and Zhenyuan, after the meal at Demon Saint's holy palace, 2nd generation Demon Saint and Shenwuyue saw Loopy Toad and Immortal Zhenyuan out of the palace. Blood was still gushing out of Shenwuyue's head, and the lowly maidservants on either side of him who were holding basins to catch the blood. Before leaving, Loopy Toad couldn't help turning its head to ask, "Can I ask you something?" 2nd generation Demon Saint, Senior now has Demon Saint's golden talisman, so you're an honored guest of our demon world. You can ask anything you want. Loopy Toad, what's Demon Saint's inheritance mechanism? This was what Loopy Toad had always wanted to know, and Zhenyuan also had a curious expression on his face when he heard this. 2nd generation Demon Saint, the inheritance mechanism was set by 1st generation Demon Saint, but it's a little strange. It's not based on strength or talent. Loopy Toad, based on what? 2nd generation Demon Saint, you just have to pee on the holy pillar. Zhenyuan, Loopy Toad. Chapter 6:12. Sending a text message for help was the only way Audiobook could think of at the moment. Since the other party had the intention to track them down for revenge, this proved that they weren't weak, and there had never been any room for negotiation with this group of vicious criminals. The truth was that Audiobook had been on guard against this ever since he had taken up the position of the general administration of 100 schools. General E and Secretary Dakang had looked for him before, wanting to send experts to protect him, but he had tactfully refused. These were 2 pawns from the top, and there was no guarantee that they wouldn't investigate him. If they found out that it was his Shifu Wang Ling, it would be game over. Audrey knew that his Shifu liked to keep a low profile, so he had refused the expert's request to protect him from the start. General Yi and Secretary Dakang had initially taken a very tough stance in this regard, but in the end, Audrey had no choice but to ask Wang Ling for help. What else could Wang Ling do? Naturally, he had looked for Father Wang, but Father Wang had only left a message, and the higher-ups had instantly fallen silent. As for Audrey's safety, he actually didn't need to worry at all. In a situation like this, he could send a text message for help. Actually, Audrey had already stored several of these SOS messages in his phone. He had even considered the possibility that the pursuer might be carrying a signal blocker on him, which would prevent him from calling for help. Audrey had even been equipped with a small signal transmitter, which was an independent signal base station which he had set up in the family apartment. Through this small signal transmitter, he could remotely control the signal base station to send out a distress signal. But since he could send text messages normally now, there was actually no need to use this kind of recording device. The driver parked the car in an empty spot in a suburban park that had yet to be developed and was sparsely populated. When Audrey and Zhong Lang got out of the car, they sensed a strong murderous aura coming from the van. Sure enough, the people inside didn't have good intentions. When the van door opened, a gloomy-looking cultivator appeared in front of Audrey and Zhong Lang. However, this person was dressed differently from a normal cultivator, and looked a little like the islanders on Sun Island. Audrey judged that this person was probably a cultivator who had returned from studying ninjutsu on Sun Island. Nowadays, cultivating both ninjutsu and cultivation arts was a trend, and there were already more and more ninjutsu whose energy structure had already been converted to spirit energy. Audrey didn't find it strange at all that this kind of dual cultivator had appeared in the Demon Hunters Association, since they already had a lot of evidence of the Demon Hunters Association colluding with foreign dark forces. They had been tracking down the remaining higher-ups of the Demon Hunters Association. Now that this person had appeared, Audrey instantly understood. A considerable portion of the Demon Hunters Association's upper echelons had been sent abroad to further their studies. That was why there had been no news in the country. This group of higher-ups was the true core of the Demon Hunters Association. As for the higher-ups in the country, including elders Wu Wu, it was likely that President Bai had never truly used them as a core force from the very beginning. You're finally willing to get off, the gloomy young man stared at them. I'm under orders from Elder Ji Xing of the Demon Hunters Association to ask you to come with us. You've studied abroad, right? You shouldn't be the only one in the Demon Hunters Association. Didn't that Elder Ji Xing also come back from studying abroad? Audrey asked. Are you trying to get information out of me? There's no harm in telling you. In any case, you'll be dead tomorrow. The gloomy young man smiled. This time, we've been summoned by Elder Ji Xing to gather here from abroad. Today was supposed to be the day of your death, but because of some small problems in the organization, we'll officially take action tomorrow. Official action? Audrey frowned. Judging from this young man's tone, the other party didn't intend to kill him yet, and just wanted to capture him and kill him tomorrow. Taking into account the crazy actions of foreign dark forces in the last few years, Audrey already seemed to have some idea of the other party's objective. This Demon Hunters Association probably wanted to capture him and Zhong Lang, and then find a suitable place to publicly execute them tomorrow. Audrey also had his own speculations about this place. It was either at the general administration of 100 schools or at number 60 high. This was truly a terrifying group of thugs. Audrey's heart was still a little shaken. This was just the Demon Hunters Association. As a small organization under the umbrella of the Foreign Dark Force Night Chief, it actually had so much power and so many expert dual cultivation warriors overseeing it. Then how terrifying was the real Night Chief? The gloomy young man standing in front of them now already had cultivation beyond the soul formation stage, and the pressure he felt was far greater than when he faced grenade-throwing senior immortal. About 5 grenade-throwing senior immortals? Audrey thought in his heart. But one thing was certain, this person's cultivation wasn't at itinerant immortal level. Qing Yu, the master of Immortal Mansion, was at peak late itinerant immortal stage, also known as half a step true immortal. Compared with the master of Immortal Mansion, this young man's strength was far inferior. Moreover, the master of human Immortal Mansion had his own intrinsic spirit field, and with the help of the intrinsic spirit field, his combat strength was comparable to that of a true immortal. What's on Director Zhuo's mind? Thinking about how you're going to bury yourself tomorrow? This dual cultivation warrior from the Demon Hunters Association hadn't made a move yet, and his tone had been teasing them from beginning to end. When all was said and done, he and Zhonglang were only at the Golden Core stage, and in the eyes of this Demon Hunters Association warrior, they were nothing. Zhuo stared at the young man and kindly reminded him, if you leave now, you might still be alive. If you leave any later, you really won't be able to leave. The Demon Hunters Association warrior? Zhuo, you're as weak as a chicken. Even if I catch you and send you to Songhai First Prison, you won't be able to be locked up in the special cell with the bigwigs inside. You're not qualified at all. The gloomy Demon Hunters Association warrior looked coldly at Zhuo and gritted his teeth. Do you want to die? His aura was released all at once, and along with his anger, it almost turned into an invisible roar. Immense spiritual pressure bore down on them, and Zhuo and Zhonglang felt their bodies sink as half their feet sunk into the ground. I'm so nervous. Zhonglang frowned. Brother Zhuo, are these long johns really useful? Why do I feel so much pressure from the other side that I can't breathe? It's all right. Zhuo raised his eyebrows and pulled up Zhonglang's collar to take a look. Zhuo, you're wearing it the other way around. Chapter 613. These familiar dead fish eyes made Loopy Toad's fur tremble. After composing itself, Dog 2 also noticed that Jinka was lying next to Little Master Ling. The two of them were lying on their sides with their heads propped up as they stared at Loopy Toad, just like an old father with his son. Loopy Toad, actually, at that moment, Loopy Toad already knew what was going on. Little Master Ling had probably known long ago that it had gone to the demon world, and had even been thinking of ways to help it in secret. The golden light shield that Lord Ma had created after the teleportation definitely wasn't an effect of Lord Ma's, but had been set up by Little Master from the beginning. Sure enough, trying to hide it from Little Master Ling had really been a stupid choice. Do you have anything to say? Jinka asked Dog 2 with an expressionless face. Loopy Toad swallowed. When did you find out? From the very beginning, Jinka replied. Loopy Toad, then, that's right, we all saw your performance just now, Jinka said. Ling likes to peek at you, don't know. Loopy Toad. Wang Ling felt that Shenhuiyue had definitely led Jinka astray. Of all the things he could learn, he had to learn from Shenhuiyue to undermine him. Although Wang Ling hadn't said anything, that didn't mean he wouldn't punish Dog 2. He decided to punish Dog 2 in the cruelest way he could think of as a punishment for lying to his master. For the next month, Wang Ling wouldn't take Dog 2 out for a stroll anymore. He decided to let Dog 2 walk itself. When Wang Ling told Loopy Toad telepathically about his punishment, Loopy Toad gritted its teeth in pain. This punishment was indeed very cruel, really, too cruel. It jumped into Wang Ling's arms, tears streaming down its eyes. Loopy Toad looked at the time. It just so happened to be 6 in the morning. It was July 21st on Friday in the 13th week of the semester. It was time for Little Master Ling to go to school. After this trip to the demon world, Loopy Toad had actually expected that its little master would be very angry when it came back. But as it turned out, he really was a very gentle person. It couldn't help taking out its diary and starting to write about its trip to the demon world last night. Loopy Toad had originally named this diary, Human Observation Diary, with the intention of promoting peace between the demon world and the human world. It recorded a lot of Loopy Toad's prejudices against humans when it was a demon king, as well as its changed view of these prejudices after living in the human world. Loopy Toad gave a general retelling of what had happened last night from beginning to end. Of course, there were two things it hadn't written down. One was the secret of Demon Saint's inheritance, and the other was the truth about second-generation demon saint's ascension to the throne. Both of these things were pretty confidential. That old man Shenhua couldn't control it, but Loopy Toad felt that it was still pretty tight-lipped. There were some things that could be said and some things that could not be said. If this diary got out and other people saw it, second-generation demon saint would lose all his face. So tired. In the end, it wasn't very convenient to write with dog paws, and Dog 2's paws ached from writing. However, the handwriting of every entry in the diary had improved. In the beginning, the handwriting was like scribbled talismans. Now, it was beautiful and slim. Actually, Buttface felt a sense of accomplishment when he saw it. Success. Take a picture. Show it to Little Silver. In fact, Loopy Toad also wanted to show it to Wei Ji. After all, Wei Ji was one of the few good friends it had in the human world. But in the end, Loopy Toad was restricted by the contents of the diary. It felt that it wouldn't be good for Wei Ji to see it. What if it scared him? Not long after it sent the picture to Little Silver, about 2 minutes later, Dog 2's chat window vibrated. Little Silver, F***K. You went to the demon world. And you hid it from Master. Master actually didn't blame you? Loopy Toad shrugged its shoulders and replied a little proudly, maybe this is the power of the main character, Little Silver, Loopy Toad, you're our Ling Ling's second contract beast. Actually, I've always told Little Master Ling that he wants to be fair, but he just likes to spoil me. What can I do? I'm also very helpless. Maybe it's because I'm cuter. I don't have to worry about food and I'm pleasing to the eyes. At night, I'm an environmentally friendly fluorescent eye protection lamp. Furthermore, I'm small and easy to carry around. I'm a must-have at home or on a trip. Look at you, you're such a big lump after transforming, and such a big one at that. It's definitely not worth it to keep you with me. Little Silver felt like he had been dealt a blow. Loopy Toad's words made him jealous beyond recognition, and he punched a hole directly in the sofa. No. This couldn't go on. Grenade throwing, grenade throwing. Little Silver couldn't help shouting. Grenade throwing Senior Immortal had been really busy. He hadn't been idle these 2 days as he had been investigating President Bai, who was still on the run. Not long ago, a mysterious person on the Cultivation Forum had leaked news that President Bai's foreign force, Night Chief, was now in chaos. A president called Edmark had been killed from a distance and died on the spot, by a ball-shaped magic weapon of unknown origin. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had specially looked into this Edmark before. He was the earliest founding elder of Night Chief when the organization was first established, and the leader of the 6 generals under Night Chief. Although Night Chief didn't have a deputy leader position, Edmark's overall strength and experience were already at the level of a deputy leader. It could be said that under Night Ghost Spirit Emperor, who was at the helm of the organization, this President Edmark was above tens of thousands of people and an existence who could call the wind and summon the rain. But now, the leader of the 6 generals, Edmark, had died suddenly and inexplicably, which was quite puzzling. Who on earth did it? Could it be that someone else was watching this foreign force? Was it friend or foe? Nothing was known. While grenade throwing was thinking, Little Silver started to yell. "What's the matter, Brother Silver?" When he got up and came over to Little Silver's side, grenade throwing Senior Immortal saw the big hole in the broccoli sofa and immediately took a deep breath. "Brother Silver, the cost of this broccoli sofa will be deducted from your living expenses next month. It's a total of 500,000. Grenade throwing Senior Immortal was determined to help Little Silver completely correct his bad habit of breaking furniture when he got excited. Hearing the price of the sofa, Little Silver immediately hissed. "This sofa is so ugly, why is it so expensive?" The corners of grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's mouth twitched. "Have you heard of raising a Kuan?" Little Silver bit his finger. "A web-based game?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, when someone played this game, they made a mistake. They raised the corpse Kuan into a rotten Kuan, but it smelled bad but tasted good. Little Silver, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled. So the same principle applies to this sofa. It looks ugly, but it's expensive. Chapter 6:14. Little Silver really couldn't imagine that such an ugly sofa could actually be worth 500,000. Could it be that this broccoli sofa had been soaked in leopard bones? That shouldn't be the case. Forget it, 500,000 was 500,000. In any case, he had been on a diet during this time, so he couldn't eat much even if he ordered takeout. At worst, he wouldn't order the devil fruit this month. Every time he ordered takeout, the devil fruit always accounted for more than 50% of the cost. Little Silver felt that he shouldn't be so extravagant, and should save on the cost of food. Thinking this, he immediately sighed. It looked like he could only eat braised chicken and rice next month. How painful. After living with Little Silver for a while, grenade-throwing immortal had a basic understanding of Little Silver's habits. However, there was one thing that he hadn't expected from beginning to end. Silver's reverence for Brother Ling had almost reached a fanatical level. To be able to make a holy beast so open its heart to acknowledge a master, it could only be said that as expected of Brother Ling, grenade-throwing senior immortal suddenly felt a little hurt for some reason. Although Little Silver was Brother Ling's contract beast, everyone had a responsibility to protect holy beasts. As Silver's current breeder, he had to think of a way to become stronger. Grenade-throwing senior immortal cupped his chin and stared at the impatient Silver in front of him. Brother Silver, what did you call me for? I wanted to ask, under what circumstances would Master take the initiative to walk the dog? Little Silver asked solemnly. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, walk the dog? This was a question that grenade-throwing senior immortal hadn't expected, because walking the dog was a normal practice for dog owners, mainly to relieve the dog's boredom. Scientific research showed that if a dog was cooped up at home for a long time, it was very bad for its physical and mental health. Furthermore, this rule wasn't just for spirit dogs. Nowadays, many pet trainers had the habit of taking their spirit beasts out for a walk. But in the vast majority of cases, this was for spirit beasts that hadn't taken human form. There were many types of spirit beasts, and many of them were terrifyingly large. If this group of spirit beasts went out for a walk on their own, they could be in danger. Thus, the country had a unified rule that these spirit beasts had to be personally led by their masters before they could go out on the streets. Furthermore, there was a limit to their size. For spirit beasts that were too large, they were forbidden from going through some crowded and bustling streets, and had to take a detour. Why is Brother Silver suddenly concerned about this? Grenade-throwing senior immortal was very curious about Little Silver's question. For a holy beast who had already transformed into a modern shut-in, it was really miraculous that he would actually care about going out to walk his dog. Little Silver sighed heavily. It's all because of that dog Boppy. Brother Dog, what's wrong? Grenade-throwing senior immortal asked. Little Silver, it says that Master dotes on it alone. But it just received some punishment recently, and Master has decided not to take it out for a stroll for the next month, so I think this is a good opportunity for me to take over. Grenade-throwing senior immortal took a deep breath. Brother Silver, don't tell me, yes. That's right. Little Silver had a very serious expression on his face. I want Master to walk me. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was alarmed. But you can't reveal your beast form, otherwise you'll definitely be exposed. Have you forgotten your agreement with Brother Ling? Besides, Brother Ling himself doesn't like to show off too much. Little Silver shrugged. Then I'll go out in my human form. That's impossible, Brother Silver, give up. Grenade-throwing senior immortal slapped his face. Going out in human form was fine, but wouldn't that be even more ostentatious? Whether it works or not, I have to give it a try. Little Silver grit his teeth and refused to give up. I've already booked a ride. I'll go to the Spirit Beast specialty store in the afternoon to take a look. Brother Silver, what do you want to do? Grenade-throwing senior immortal suddenly had a bad feeling. To take a look at the collar, Little Silver answered seriously. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, Little Silver set off in the afternoon with a cap on, and made an appointment at the entrance of Wenxian Garden Villa Estate. He was going to Songhai City's flagship Spirit Beast specialty store. This was the largest specialty store in the entire city, which specialized in selling Spirit Beast supplies. It had everything you could think of, including Spirit Beast food and all kinds of special protective equipment for Spirit Beasts. You could even customize magic treasures specifically for Spirit Beasts. But these magic treasures were a lot worse than Fatty Luo's custom-made ones, because most custom-made magic treasures were made directly from factory materials, and the quality of the magic treasures produced in bulk was basically the same. The flagship store was quite far from Wenxian Garden. In order to save money, Little Silver chose Didi Shun Feng's Spirit Car. The app was currently running a campaign. As long as you uploaded your photo and your real name, and got more than 1,000 likes in the community, you would get a discount on the first 10 rides. Little Silver had already made plans for today's trip early in the morning. He was quite confident in his photo. With his long, flowing hair and the heart gesture, he had already received more than 10,000 likes in the community by the time he left the house. Little Silver looked at the number of likes and was very pleased. He hadn't even added any filters, but he was already so popular. Actually, Little Silver had a very good foundation. Whether he was skin polishing or not, and whether he added filters or not, the effect was the same. It looked like he indeed had the talent to be an actor. In fact, Little Silver had thought about finding a part-time job where he could get paid. Relying on grenade throwing's monthly allowance actually wasn't a problem. Furthermore, the most important thing was the additional expenses. Most of the allowance grenade throwing gave him was actually for food. If he used it to buy other things, it wouldn't be enough. Little Silver had heard Dog 2 mentioned before that Fatty Luo was preparing for a big movie. He wondered if he would have a chance to audition for it. As he left the house, Little Silver looked at the netizens' impressions of him. Tag 1, fair skin, beautiful long legs. Little Silver felt shy when he saw this tag. What kind of big truth was this? Tag 2, little sister is so good looking. Little Silver. What kind of eyes did people have nowadays? He clearly had hair on his body. It was just that he couldn't tell because it was white. Tag 3, can't hold back at first glance. Little Silver scared, his emotions very complicated, because he didn't know whether this tag belonged to a man or a woman. He hoped it wasn't a pervert, who harbored improper thoughts about him. Little Silver checked these comments, and then saw the one with the most likes out of all the tags so far. Tag 4, too bad it's an airport. Chapter 6:15. The original intention of the personalized tag was to draw people closer, and a separate social platform was also good for networking. It was good for people to make a few more friends in the world. But the problem was that this was a taxi-hailing app, not a social app. Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal had already reminded Little Silver of this when he had downloaded the app. He had just reached the door when Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal texted him again. Brother Silver, be careful when you're out. Contact me anytime if anything happens. Little Silver stared at the message and smiled, his eyes pure as he immediately replied, don't worry, there aren't that many bad people in this world. It's better to be careful. Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal was mainly worried about Little Silver's identity being exposed. Safety was completely out of his consideration. Little Silver's overall fighting strength was much stronger than his. He was afraid that Little Silver wouldn't be careful and give himself away. In fact, Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal realized that every time Little Silver went out without anyone else, he would have a bad feeling. For example, the last 2 times Little Silver had gone out alone, he had somehow ended up at the police station. And the most important thing was that Little Silver went to the same police station each time. Songhai City's Anning District Cultivation Police Branch Station. Every time Little Silver went in, the entire police station wouldn't be at peace. After waiting at the door for a while, Little Silver saw a Didi Shun Feng Spirit car slowly drive over. He checked the license plate number on the app and frowned. Song A00544. He realized that the license plate number wasn't right. The license plate number shown on the app was A for 4944, but it seemed like this was the only hitchhiker nearby, and Little Silver immediately sensed that something wasn't right in the air. The hitchhiker was bald. When he saw Little Silver, he rolled down the window and stretched one arm out to greet him. "Beauty, get in. Your license plate number isn't right." Little Silver stared at the bald driver. "Also, I'm a boy." "Ah, Mr. Silver, I'm so sorry. You're so cute, just like a girl." The driver gave a very secretive smile. "Actually, whether it's a boy or a girl, anyone who gets in my car is definitely a cute kid. My surname is Lou. Today happens to be my birthday. If you choose to get on the bus, I can pay for it." There was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Even a small serving of braised chicken and rice cost 15 renminbi per bowl. Moreover, in many cases, there were very few chicken pieces in the braised chicken and rice. Most of the chicken pieces were bones, chicken skin, potatoes, and green peppers. From Wenxian Garden to the Spirit Beast flagship store in the city center, it would cost 3,000 yuan just to take a taxi. How could this driver give him a free ride? "I'm afraid that he has improper thoughts about me. But as long as I get in the car, I can save 3,000 yuan. For a moment, Little Silver was at a loss. He could tell that the driver was interested in him. Should he get in or not? That was a problem. After a moment, Little Silver still decided to open the car door. Who cared if this driver had any feelings for him? He would take him for a ride first. Anyway, this driver was only at the early stage of the Gold Core realm, so there was no way he could do anything to him. When Little Silver opened the car door, out of the corner of his eye, he saw Didi Spirit car driver Lou in the rearview mirror curl his lips slightly and smile like a fish taking the bait. "Mr. Silver? Confirm your destination first. You're going to the flagship store specializing in Spirit Beast equipment, right?" Lu Zhenhua asked cautiously. "That's right." Little Silver nodded. "How long will it take to get there?" 2 hours should be enough, right?" "It won't take 2 hours, I'll be there in an hour. I can take a shortcut." Driver Lu chuckled. "Mr. Silver, are you going to the Spirit Beast store because you're raising some spirit beasts at home?" Most people had the impression that people who raised spirit beasts usually didn't have very high realms. That's right. How many spirit beasts? Aren't they awesome?" "Not bad." The driver kept asking questions, and Little Silver immediately realized that this driver was testing him. The aura on his body was usually restrained and maintained at the level of the late stage of the Foundation establishment stage, hiding his true realm. When this driver thought he was infallible when he sensed Little Silver's disguised realm, the smile on his face became even more smug. So, had he picked up a top-notch item today? Driver Lu couldn't help sticking out his tongue to lick his lips. Sitting in the back of the car, Little Silver pretended not to know, but he saw everything. Little Silver suddenly felt an impulse. He wanted to cut off this wretched person's tongue. Driver Lu was excited to ask the question he wanted. He stepped on the accelerator and sped forward. This Mr. Silver behind him had skin as white as a porcelain doll's. In any case, whether it was a boy or a girl, Driver Lu had some evil thoughts about him. And most importantly, not only was this person not very strong, he actually lived in a high-end villa area like Wenxian Garden. Then this Mr. Silver was most likely the son of a rich family. He had really picked up a treasure today. Driver Lu felt that he could do whatever he wanted with this Mr. Silver, and then kidnap the other party to threaten his family. He couldn't be happier with wealth and lust. On the other side, Wang Ling heard some gossip about Didi Spirit cars during his morning self-study session. This news wouldn't be reported until noon, but Dopigua had already gotten first-hand information through his uncle. "Everyone, do you know that recently, there's a pervert called the all-eating crazy fiend? He's a Didi Spirit car driver who preys on passengers. First he robs them, then he robs them of their money. In the end, whether or not they pay, they'll be killed. This person's methods are so cruel that it makes people's hair stand on end. A lot of golden core cultivators have already fallen prey to him," said Dopigua. Little Peanut couldn't help shivering. "Good thing I don't take a taxi, this is too scary." Dopigua scared. "That's not the scariest part. Do you know why he's called the all-eating crazy fiend? It's said that he doesn't look at the gender of his passengers, and his only requirement is that they look good. It doesn't matter if they're a man or a woman. Super Chen was startled. There's this kind of operation? Then wouldn't I be in danger? Everyone, Dopey Guo looked at Super Chen and smiled slightly. Super, it's not that I want to discourage you, you're not bad looking, but when he picks his passengers, he basically picks those with thin skin and tender flesh. He doesn't want Africans. Super Chen, after saying this, Dopey Guo added, someone like Wang Ling is just right. Chapter 6:16. Wang Ling realized that Dopey Guo had been a little jumpy recently, and would arrange things for him from time to time. Logically speaking, Wang Ling felt that his presence in class was already quite low, but on the contrary, he felt like he was always being watched. What was even stranger was that this feeling didn't make him feel uncomfortable. For some reason, Wang Ling felt that everyone in number 60 high had a very special affinity with him. Actually, Wang Ling felt that this was something worth pondering and thinking about. When he had created the intrinsic spirit field back then, he had directly used number 60 high for the background model. This was a subconscious reaction, and also reflected the weight number 60 high had in his heart. Number 60 high might not be the best school, but in Wang Ling's heart, it was at least the school that had left the deepest impression. 13 weeks into the semester, so many things had happened, and he had almost died of exhaustion. Teacher Pan taught the morning class, and there were 2 consecutive Tao Talismans lessons. Because the weather was a little gloomy and the sports meet had just ended, Teacher Pan felt that the students in class should be more focused. As a pioneer teacher at number 60 high, it could only be said that Teacher Pan was in the end Teacher Pan. Without even saying goodbye, she directly occupied the 3rd period of PE class and unceremoniously gave 3 lessons in a row. When Teacher Yi arrived, he just stood at the door of the classroom and knocked on it as a matter of routine. After seeing the look in Teacher Pan's eyes, he immediately shrank his head back and disappeared without a trace. Super Chen and Dopey Guo couldn't help raising their middle fingers at Teacher Yi to express their deep protest at his cowardly behavior. As a PE teacher, how could he bow down to the rich and powerful like this? Teacher Yi, you have to be tough. You have to be tough. But unfortunately, Teacher Yi had left just like that, like a fragrant concubine who had turned into a butterfly. He left no trace behind. The school class schedule was arranged scientifically by the teaching consultants of the General Administration of 100 schools according to the habits of each school's students. This arrangement took into account a lot of factors, such as the rate at which students raised their hands in class, the rate at which they raised their heads, and so on. There was even some data that could be precise, down to the length of eye contact with the lecturer. Wang Ling originally didn't know about these things, and had only heard about them from Audiobook. So sometimes, 3 classes in a row wouldn't have a particularly good effect. Usually, Teacher Pan occupied class time for nothing more than dictation and tests, but this time, contrary to everyone's expectations, she actually used the 3rd period to hold a class meeting for everyone. Old Pan stood on the podium and scanned the class with an expression as if she knew everything. I know. When I asked Teacher Yi to leave just now, someone must have criticized me in their hearts, right? Super Chen and Dopey Guo didn't dare say anything. Old Pan, Super Chen, Dopey Guo. Don't look at me and laugh. I'm talking about the 2 of you. Smiling isn't a good thing. Super Chen and Dopey Guo, Old Pan knew them too well. In this class meeting, I want to talk to everyone about Devil Valley. I wonder if anyone has heard of this? As soon as Old Pan finished speaking, the class fell into a dead silence. They were all shocked. Many students in the elite class read a lot of extracurricular knowledge, so many of them were stunned when they heard the news. Devil Valley? Isn't this a mystic realm that only opens once every 100 years? Devil Valley is a nationally protected 5A mystic realm, and is also known as Beast King's remains. Rumor has it that Devil Valley is the tomb that Devil King, the king of holy beasts, built for itself. Teacher Pan said, our country has already detected the entrance to the mystic realm this time, and it's within Songhai City. The most important thing is that our grade 1 class is very lucky. Secretary Dakang of the Alliance of 10,000 Schools has personally approved our Grade 1 summer camp this year to be held in Devil Valley. There was actually such a good thing. Everyone had stupefied expressions on their faces. To be able to visit Devil Valley, the legendary Beast King's remains, with their own eyes, this was truly a rare opportunity that could only be encountered, not sought. If Teacher Pan hadn't personally announced it, no one would have believed it even if Dopigwa had been the first to hear it and announce it in class. Old Pan smiled. This is an opportunity for all of you. I hope everyone can make good use of this summer camp. After class, Peanut, come to my office to give out the notice of the summer camp. When you go back, ask your parents to sign it. It won't be dangerous, right? It won't be. Since it's an operation for all Grade 1 students this time, all of our Grade 1 teachers will take action to ensure everyone's safety, Teacher Pan said. There was one thing Teacher Pan didn't say, and that was the overall commander of this operation. The overall commander wasn't the Alliance of 10,000 Schools, but Huashio Alliance of Cultivators. It controlled the highest leadership department of all the light forces in Huashio Nation. Information on all the light forces was registered and recorded by Huashio Alliance, and it had direct control over the light forces nationwide. Its direct leaders were the founding head of state of Huashio Nation as well as the 10 generals. Huashio Alliance would directly intervene in matters of safety. Actually, Teacher Pan felt that the school teachers would be redundant. No one expected the summer camp organized by the school this time to actually be held in Devil Valley, and word spread as soon as class was over. First, it spread to Grade 2 and Grade 3, and then, with number 60 High as the epicenter, all the other high schools in Peiyuan District posted all kinds of envious, jealous, and hateful posts online. Devil Valley was a 5A secret land. Every year, when the entrance was opened, the country would seal off and regulate it, and only some approved academic experts would be allowed to enter with the inspection team to gather intelligence on Devil Valley. Hence, this place wasn't a place that anyone could enter just because they wanted to. Furthermore, each year, the inspection team would go through strict control and approval, and the number of people would be kept under control. Hence, the Alliance of 10,000 Schools directly named Devil Valley as the location for the summer camp this time. A lot of people didn't understand this operation. After school, Dopigwa suddenly said, "A lot of people are saying that the remains we're going to might be fake. What do you think?" Little Peanut, actually, I think it might be fake. There are a lot of extinct resources in Devil Valley. How can we, a bunch of Foundation establishment students, go there? Not necessarily, Super Chin retorted. I feel that this activity might have been arranged beforehand. Maybe the higher-ups are using us as a secret weapon. Dopigwa didn't understand. Secret weapon? What do you mean? Think about it, Super Chin analyzed. The last time we held a spirit sword exchange meet, Shadow Stream was beaten to a pulp. Then we held a military training for 6 schools, and the old devil was beaten to a pulp. This time, we're holding a joint summer camp. When Super Chin said this, everyone in class thought about it in extreme fear. Chapter 617. Even Wang Ling hadn't expected that the school's summer camp would actually be held in Devil Valley. This was a 5A state-protected secret land, and even a team of experts from a state agency had to go through the agency level by level every year to apply for permission, and there was no guarantee that it would be approved. This time, it was actually directly opened up as a summer camp location for students, which was a little unimaginable to Wang Ling. He knew that Fatty Luo had been eyeing this place for a long time. In order to search for the 1,000 dried bones, the main material for making Jinka's scabbard, Fatty Luo had started planning to enter Devil Valley several months ago, and had even obtained an expert certificate. In the end, after Fatty Luo's painstaking planning for so long, the opportunity to enter Devil Valley had fallen into his lap just like that. Wang Ling vaguely had a bad feeling. He felt that what Super Chin said wasn't unreasonable. Every time there was a group activity, it felt like something big was going to happen. It was already around 4:00 at the moment, and it had already been a full 4 hours since Little Silver had left Wenxian Garden. There were several congested sections in the middle, so Driver Lu suggested that Little Silver take a detour, which Little Silver didn't refuse. In the end, driver Lu turned the steering wheel in the opposite direction and drove the car to an unfamiliar section of the road that Little Silver had never seen before. When he had gotten in the car, Little Silver had already been wary of this driver. Then, he had looked up recent incidents involving Didi Shun Feng's spirit cars online, and found information on someone called Gobbler Crazy Demon. This was the fugitive criminal suspect who had recently been involved in several robberies. Little Silver compared the information online and couldn't help sighing in his heart. He was too unlucky. It's already been 4 hours, hey, isn't it time yet? Little Silver was a little impatient. He didn't know what on earth this driver Lu was up to. We're almost there, Mr. Silver. Lu Zhenhua licked his lips. Because the other roads were too congested, we had to take a detour. If you take those congested roads, I'm afraid Mr. Silver won't be able to arrive even at night. The car was still moving. Through the rearview mirror, Lu Zhenhua saw Mr. Silver, who looked like a pretty girl, sitting in the back seat with his arms crossed and an impatient expression on his face. Don't be anxious, Mr. Silver. Let's listen to the music first. Lu Zhenhua smiled strangely. Then, he touched the small mechanism behind the steering wheel, and the doors were instantly sealed. He had modified the car, and when this small mechanism was triggered, it would activate the independent secret lock on the door, so that all the doors except for the driver's seat would be sealed silently. Then, he turned on the music play button, and melodious music began to play from the car stereo, but the music was mixed with something else. This stereo had also been modified by driver Lu. It wasn't just a simple stereo. Little Silver immediately sensed it. When he focused his gaze on the sound system, he could see some white powder dispersing from the beehive-like sound port to the music, which dissolved little by little in the air and then turned into nothingness. This was a very secretive method. If one's cultivation level was too low, they would not be able to detect it at all. No wonder there were many Aurus Core stage cultivators in the previous reports, and even one nascent soul stage cultivator had fallen for this trick. If one didn't have enough precautions, it was very easy to fall for this trick. Some people might be on their guard when they saw the driver suddenly turn on the air conditioner, but most people wouldn't expect a hallucinogen to be transmitted through the car stereo. As long as the music was played, the hallucinogen would spread little by little along with the vibration of the melody, turning into a stream of air until it filled the entire car. Seeing that his plan was going smoothly, Lu Zhenhua couldn't help laughing sinisterly in his heart. He had spent a lot of money to get this hallucinogen from the black market. Even a nascent soul cultivator would feel dizzy and unable to use spirit energy when standing in it, so this hallucinogen was called drunk baby drunk powder. The most important thing was that this hallucinogen could be transmitted in a variety of ways. It could be used through vibration, immersion, and so on. In order to work as discreetly as possible, Lu Zhenhua modified his car's stereo system. There was an independent groove inside that could store the psychedelic powder. As long as the music was played, the light psychedelic powder would turn into a stream of air and fly out from the small hole in the stereo system along with the melody. Even a nascent soul cultivator would only need 5 seconds to be knocked out when the hallucinogen turned into a stream of air and filled the car. At that moment, Lu Zhenhua was sneering in his heart. He looked at the time. 5 seconds had passed in the blink of an eye. Mr. Silver was in perfect condition. Lu Zhenhua. Could it be that the effect of his powder had expired? That couldn't be. He had just put this packet of hallucinogen in the car not long ago, and he had confirmed its expiration date before. This type of hallucinogen had a shelf life of more than 3 years. Furthermore, this was just a foundation establishment cultivator. Shouldn't he be knocked out by a whiff? Crossing his arms, Little Silver looked at driver Lu's black face full of question marks and couldn't help laughing in his heart. Then, 30 seconds passed. Driver Lu met the smiling face of this Mr. Silver in the rearview mirror, and his heart instantly turned cold. Little Silver, you're that crazy demon, right? Lu Zhenhua narrowed his eyes. I don't know what Mr. Silver is talking about, Little Silver. I already saw the many mechanisms you set up in the car after you changed your appearance. You probably did something to the stereo, right? I saw some white powder inside. It's probably a hallucinogen. Hearing this, Lu Zhenhua immediately braked. and the expression on his face changed from a harmless smile to a fiendish one as he stared at Little Silver. "When did you find out?" "I was a little suspicious when I got in the car, and only confirmed your identity after I looked up some information on the internet." Little Silver spread his hands. Lu Zhenhua found it very strange. "You didn't think about running?" Little Silver was even more baffled. "Why should I run? You're clearly the one who should run." Lu Zhenhua, "Also, I've been thinking about a very philosophical question since just now. Tiobi or not Tiobi? Should I get rid of you? Because when you run into a bad guy, Tioing or not Tioing doesn't work." Little Silver analyzed the situation with a straight face. "But when my master signed the contract with me, he said that I'm not allowed to casually kill people. If someone like you just dies like this, it'll be too easy on you." "You?" Lu Zhenhua gritted his teeth. He realized that this very pretty Mr. Silver in front of him wasn't at the foundation establishment stage at all. This was a tough nut to crack. Although he couldn't tell what realm Mr. Silver specifically was at, given that Little Silver's hallucinogen powder was ineffective, this person was at least a soul formation expert. "Don't move. I've already sealed the car doors." Lu Zhenhua took out a crystal ball from his chest pocket. "This is a spirit bullet, it will explode if I crush it. Get out of my car now and we'll pretend we never met. Otherwise, I don't mind dragging someone down with me." But as soon as Lu Zhenhua said this, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his hand. "Bah!" Little Silver directly spat on Lu Zhenhua's palm, and in severe pain, Lu Zhenhua realized that his palm had been dissolved along with the spirit bullet. "Ah!" Lu Zhenhua let out a pained scream as his hand instantly melted like an ice cube under high heat. He was going to call the police. "Police, uncle." Chapter 618. Driver Lu screamed as Little Silver's phlegm instantly dissolved his entire right hand all the way to his elbow. The most frightening thing was that even though it had dissolved, there wasn't a single drop of blood seeping out of the wound. What Lu Zhenhua felt was the continuous burning pain of his right forearm being dissolved. It was as if someone had lit a lighter to roast the wound, and Lu Zhenhua's face instantly turned pale. "Do you have anything to tell me?" Little Silver looked at Driver Lu with a harmless smile on his face. That mouthful of phlegm just now seemed very casual, but it was actually a very meticulous operation. Little Silver could spit down to the microgram. Thus, Little Silver had specially controlled that mouthful of phlegm just now, otherwise this Driver Lu would have been directly dissolved on the spot like those two fellow disciples of the Demon Hunters Association back then, and not even his bones would have been left. Why didn't he just directly kill this scumbag driver? Little Silver's reason was very clear: his master didn't like him to casually kill people. Another very important point was that Little Silver felt that letting this kind of scumbag die just like that was really too easy. Reincarnation was a natural cycle. Who would the heavens spare? This evil driver, who had already harmed who knew how many boys and girls, probably never thought that he would receive this kind of retribution. "Even if you hand me over to the police, I won't live for long. I have 3 months at most." Lu Zhenhua's face was covered in sweat from the pain and he was deathly pale. "I have a terminal disease, golden core cancer. There's a tumor in your golden core?" Little Silver was alarmed. "Yes, and it's terminal. There's no way it can be cured." Lu Zhenhua gritted his teeth with a pained expression. His expression was very dark. "So, I hope that before I die, I can bring some fear to this world. I want the entire world of martial arts to remember me, the existence of the all-conquering demon. Golden core cancer was the only terminal cancer that hadn't been cured. If it was just a pathological change in an organ, modern cultivation medicine could already completely cure it. But golden core cancer couldn't, and there were many problems involved. If a golden core cultivator's golden core was shattered, they actually wouldn't be able to live for long. Therefore, if the gold core was directly removed, for these gold core stage cultivators, it might be more painful than death. Once the golden core in one's body was removed, although the disease could be prevented, one's lifespan would be greatly shortened. Most importantly, once the golden core was removed, one would no longer be able to cultivate. Therefore, the perfect solution was to directly kill the diseased tissue inside the golden core without affecting it. But this had always been a medical problem. Furthermore, the chances of a cultivator's golden core developing a disease were actually very low. The probability was 1 in 100 million, therefore, Lu Zhenhua was one of the winners, among the 1 in a billion. A hateful person was bound to be pitiful. It was true that Lu Zhenhua was a pitiful person, but Little Silver didn't think he deserved any sympathy. Sooner or later, he would have to pay for what he had done. Little Silver felt that there was a saying that was very true: the cultivation world was vast, and everyone had a different way of making their presence known in it. There were those who did good and enjoyed the praise of the world. There were also those who did evil, and those who were notorious. Both of these were ways to make people remember. But it was a pity that what was recorded and praised throughout the ages would always be those good deeds that promoted virtue. So if you wanted to rely on this kind of notoriety to make a name for yourself in the cultivation circle, don't ever say that you were from the cultivation world. The world didn't care about you at all. Little Silver pursed his lips, then bit his finger. Before the wound healed on its own, he hurriedly squeezed out a drop of blood and directly flicked it into Lu Zhenhua's mouth. Driver Lu's pained expression was puzzled. "What did you do?" "Nothing, I just prolonged your life." Little Silver spread his hands. Of course, there was nothing he could do about a disease that even modern cultivation medicine couldn't cure. But holy beast blood could be used to prolong one's life. Lu Zhenhua tasted blood. But strangely, the moment this blood entered his body, he felt the disease in his body ease considerably. The trembling that he felt from time to time due to the disease in his golden core had disappeared. Not only that, even the burning sensation in his melted right forearm had lessened. That drop of holy beast blood just now had extended Lu Zhenhua's life by a full 10 years. Lu Zhenhua turned pale with fright. "Who the hell are you?" One mouthful of phlegm had made him feel as if he had fallen off a cliff, and one drop of blood had brought him back from the dead. In that moment, Lu Zhenhua realized the gap between their absolute strength. It would be as easy as pie for this Mr. Silver in front of him to do anything to him. This guy wasn't a normal person at all, reflect on it. "I'll call the police now, and you'll spend the last days of your life in prison with Soap and your cellmates." Little Silver crossed his arms and said solemnly. Lu Zhenhua realized that things weren't looking good. He wanted to get out of the car, but found that he couldn't move at all as an oppressive force froze him from head to toe. Compared with this, Mr. Silver, his weak fighting strength wasn't in the same dimension at all. However, just as Little Silver was about to take out his phone to call the police, he suddenly heard the sound of sirens rising and falling from the roadside. Little Silver was startled. It couldn't be such a coincidence, right? With 2 motorcycles clearing the way, they directly bypassed Lu Zhenhua's car and stopped in front of it. Then, a uniformed police officer got out of a police car behind the car and knocked on the window of the taxi. "Get out, it's a routine inspection." Lu Zhenhua's pupils immediately contracted slightly when he saw the uniform, and his body straightaway went limp like a deflated balloon. It was over, it was all over. This was from the traffic team. They couldn't stop on this road. Lu Zhenhua guessed that he had been here for too long, which was why he had been targeted. Little Silver rolled down the window and smiled at the police officer. "Hi." The police officer looked inside and noticed that there was something wrong with the expression on the driver's face, and he frowned. "Mr. Driver, please show me your ID." Lu Zhenhua frowned, looking as if he had nothing left to live for. The police officer already knew what was going on. "Since that's the case, please come with us." Also, after saying that, the police officer looked at Little Silver. "This lady, please come with us." Little Silver, 7:00 in the evening, Songhai City's Anning District Cultivation Police Station. Little Silver arrived at the familiar police station once again. But unlike the previous 2 times, he wasn't wearing handcuffs this time. The people at the police station were already very familiar with this regular, and a pretty policewoman warmly made him a cup of tea. Holding the teacup, Little Silver didn't wait long in the chair in the interrogation room before Officer Gao Tian, who had taken Little Silver's statement the previous 2 times, pushed open the door and entered. The moment he saw Little Silver, Officer Gao's expression couldn't help twitching. Why was it this guy again? Little Silver saw Officer Gao open his little notebook and immediately began to introduce himself in a very familiar manner. Name, Little Silver. Gender, male. Single, no bad habits. Favorite things are eating, watching TV shows and playing games. It had been this process the previous 2 times, and Little Silver was really too familiar with it. Officer Gao looked up at Little Silver. Why? Little Silver was very honest. I wanted to buy myself a collar. Chapter 6:19. Officer Gao, are you thinking about something very rude? Cupping his chin, Little Silver felt that something wasn't right with Officer Gao's expression. His face had clearly been serious just now, so why was he suddenly blushing? He was definitely thinking about something dirty. There were only a few things a person could do when they blushed. Although Little Silver had never seen anything dirty before, mainly because grenade throwing wouldn't let him, he knew a little about it. Officer Gao was ashamed and speechless. He was indeed thinking about something not so good. After all, buying a collar for himself didn't necessarily have to be for thrills. Officer Gao tried hard to compose himself and asked, "Did you buy a collar for yourself because your neck hurt?" Officer Gao recalled the rehabilitative collars that had appeared on the market before, which were used to protect the spine, so not all collars were improper. Like sea cucumber fried noodles, sea cucumbers were also divided into proper sea cucumbers and improper sea cucumbers. For example, just like authors were also divided into serious authors and those who did not engage in serious work. Yes, that had to be it. He could see that he was the one who had misunderstood. As a righteous police officer who served the people wholeheartedly, how could he think of anything else? Gao Tian. You have to pull yourself together, Gao Tian. However, Little Silver quickly shook his head. No, I bought the collar to let my master know that I'm wearing it for you. My master took me for a walk on the street. Master, walk, on the streets, Officer Gao, Mr. Little Silver, your master is. It had to be said that without knowing Little Silver's true identity at all, it was indeed very easy to make all kinds of associations from a purely human point of view. Officer Gao didn't feel good at all. This Silver in front of him was a little troublesome. Master? Master is my master. My master is very strong. Just like the lyrics. Little Silver suddenly thought of the lyrics of a song that had become popular recently. Officer Gao, what song? Little Silver directly sang, Elder brother trained his chest muscles. If you still want to walk, Officer Gao, Little Silver, our master's chest muscles are for me to walk on. Officer Gao, this matter was slightly more troublesome than the previous 2, because the driver who was arrested was none other than the eating maniac, who had caused a ruckus recently. Now that the gobbling crazy demon had been arrested just like that and was missing his right forearm, Little Silver definitely wouldn't be able to escape. Logically speaking, Little Silver had actually acted bravely for a just cause, but he had still been too heavy-handed. In fact, it wasn't easy to determine whether or not Little Silver was specifically responsible for the injuries. However, when Lu Zhenhua was brought into the police station with his head covered, the surrounding media, passers-by, and even the police officers who were maintaining order at the scene, many people felt that their anger had been vented. They felt that the hero who had removed Lu Zhenhua's arm had done a great job. When grenade-throwing Senior Immortal found out that Little Silver had gone to the police station, it was actually after 6:00 that night. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had always had an ominous premonition, and sure enough, it had come true. Hello, are you Mr. Grenade-throwing? Brother Little Silver is at our police station again. On the other end of the phone, Officer Gao called grenade-throwing Senior Immortal with practiced ease. In fact, the second time Little Silver had come, Officer Gao had cleverly saved grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's cell phone in his address book. After working as a police officer for a long time, one would develop a very strange intuition. For example, Officer Gao was able to distinguish people who might come to the police station every now and then. As it turned out, Officer Gao's judgment was completely correct. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, what did he do this time? Spit again? No one knew Little Silver better than grenade-throwing. Officer Gao sighed deeply. The suspect we arrested this time said that Mr. Little Silver dissolved his arm with a mouthful of phlegm. This should be some kind of spell, right? Grenade-throwing senior immortal nodded. Yes, Officer Gao, you can think of it that way. Actually, this wasn't a spell, but an ability that came with Little Silver as a holy beast. But at this stage, Little Silver's identity still needed to be kept strictly confidential. So it was actually not a bad idea to let this misunderstanding continue. Like I said, it's a spell. But Mr. Little Silver insists that it's an ability that comes with him. On the phone, Officer Gao was very gloomy. Grenade-throwing senior immortal. Officer Gao, if Mr. Little Silver's phlegm really has this ability, who would dare kiss him if he got chronic pharyngitis in the future? One kiss and his tongue would be gone. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, Officer Gao continued, Mr. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, the current situation is like this. The suspect, Lu Zhenhua, feels that Mr. Little Silver's phlegm caused him to be disabled, and wants to hold Mr. Little Silver legally responsible. He dares? Grenade-throwing senior immortal was alarmed. This perverted driver had done so many outrageous things, but actually dared to bite back. How could a person be this shameless? Officer Gao, although I think Mr. Little Silver's way of doing things is very satisfying, if they really want to pursue this matter, the other party can indeed try to hold him responsible for excessive defense. Suddenly, grenade-throwing senior immortal's expression turned serious. Do you know Secretary Yen? Little Silver works for Secretary Yen. Secretary Yen, for some reason, after hearing the words, Secretary Yen, Officer Gao suddenly felt his brain tremble. Mr. Little Silver works for some leader? Officer Gao pondered in his heart. Combined with Little Silver's previous statement, master, collar, out on the streets, for a moment, Officer Gao felt a chill run down his spine, and his entire body shivered. F***K. Did he find out something incredible? The long silence made grenade-throwing senior immortal frown. Officer Gao, what's wrong? Why aren't you saying anything? Officer Gao broke out in a sweat. Mr. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, can I ask you a question? Grenade-throwing senior immortal, Officer Gao, go ahead. Officer Gao, is Secretary Yan's chest muscle hard? Grenade-throwing senior immortal, after taking the statement, it was already 7:00 in the evening when grenade-throwing senior immortal took Little Silver out of the police station. Given the vile nature of the gobbling crazy demon incident and the very mysterious Secretary Yen, the Anning District Police Station still concluded that Little Silver's phlegm was legitimate defense. The prerequisite was that Little Silver had to cooperate with the police and testify in court. Of course, there was also the standard good and heroic citizen pennant and the media interview, which grenade-throwing senior immortal had rejected on Little Silver's behalf. He felt that it was better to keep a low profile. On the way, Little Silver listened to grenade-throwing senior immortal talk about what had happened just now, and was puzzled. Secretary Yen? Who is this Secretary Yen? Grenade-throwing senior immortal, I just made it up. Little Silver. Chapter 620. When he came back on Friday night, Wang Ling took the parents' notification form for Devil Valley's Beast King's Remains summer camp and asked Father Wang to sign it. Just like before, Father Wang didn't even look at it before he confidently signed his name, Wang Jiao, on it. His hand was like a dancing dragon and dancing phoenix, and it was impressively his signature under his real name. Wang Ling glanced at Father Wang's signature. It was the same as before, and he couldn't tell that it was Wang Jiao. This made Wang Ling sigh from the bottom of his heart. When all was said and done, he was a veteran artist in the online novel circle. After signing, Father Wang put down his pen and returned the notification form to Wang Ling. Learn to sign more of my signature. In the future, you can sign this kind of form yourself. Also, the The same rules apply to this activity: keep a low profile. If you really run into any danger, remember to leave them alive. You've already sent 3 people to prison before, so you can consider sending 1 more to play mahjong. Wang Ling. Then, Wang Ling saw Father Wang turn around in his chair and start typing. Wang Ling didn't look carefully at the content on the screen. In any case, it didn't look like Father Wang was typing, but editing something. After putting away the notification form and returning to his room, Wang Ling peeked through the door with his king's eye and saw that Father Wang was editing an article on the official account. As a top guru on the website, the number of people on Father Wang's official account wasn't any less than on other platforms. Basically, every article he published had millions of views. But Father Wang very rarely took time out to write articles on the official account. It was already pretty good if he could write 1 or 2 articles a month. Based on the style of the audience on the official account, Father Wang would use short stories to fill in some of the more popular events. Some were warm, some were funny, and some were sarcastic. Like the short stories he had published previously, the one with the highest number of views had already broken 10 million. The title was Wang Situ's Imagination, Brother Gluten and Wandering Poet. For a short story like this that was filled with imagination, it was much more difficult to manipulate than those chicken soup novels. Brother Gluten and the Wandering Poet. Synopsis. This is the story of a beggar who picked up rubbish to eat on the road and a street gluten singer, Brother Gluten. From their meeting to knowing each other. It's just like the lyrics of a song, gluten in the morning, eating happily. I met this brother, he was eating rubbish. Eating rubbish, thinking of the past, I can't imagine what his past was. Roast the gluten, tell me what's in your heart, roast all your grievances and changes over the years. Wang Ling recalled the synopsis of this short story. He remembered hearing this song in the synopsis. After Father Wang had written the lyrics, it had been directly sung by a powerful book friend. This short story, which Father Wang had adapted from reality, was still fresh in Wang Ling's memory. In the story, Brother Gluten, who had a dream of making music, met a beggar poet brother. Brother Gluten saw this beggar brother picking up rubbish to eat on the side of the road, and felt very sorry for him, so he took this beggar brother with him to participate in the Voice of Cultivation's music audition. From meeting to knowing each other, the 2 brothers encouraged each other. Several times when Brother Gluten was at a loss, it was the beggar brother who recited poems to him and helped him open his heart. After 3 long years of hard work, Brother Gluten finally won the 3rd edition of the Voice of Cultivation's competition. But at this glorious moment, his best brother, the wandering poet, chose to leave without saying goodbye. Many years later, in order to find this brother of his, Brother Gluten used the money he had earned from his music career to invest a large amount of cultivation resources in cultivation, and traveled the world in search of clues about his beggar brother, the wandering poet. Apart from singing and cultivating, Brother Gluten didn't forget to practice his gluten baking technique to the extreme when he missed them. He wanted to use his most mature gluten baking technique to bake gluten for his brother to eat the day he found the poet and beggar. After that, Brother Gluten's actions influenced an almighty called Taoist Maiba, who told him that there was a spell that could instantly make the person he missed the most appear in front of him. But he needed to collect spirit stones that represented power, time, space, soul, reality, and spirit. Over the next decade or so, Brother Gluten traveled all over the world to collect these 6 gems. Finally, he ground them into powder and mixed them into the flour used to bake gluten to make a pair of infinite gluten gloves. In the final moment of the story, Brother Gluten's face was full of excitement as he recalled his past with the beggar and the wandering poet, and he snapped his fingers, and then, there was no then, the story ended here. No one knew whether Brother Gluten would really be able to find the brother he missed the most after this snap, just as Taoist Maiba had said. No one knew whether this pair of brothers in hardship would ever have the chance to reunite. And no one knew whether Brother Gluten had painstakingly cultivated the gluten baking technique to the extreme just to make this ultimate gluten skewer when they met again, or whether it tasted good or not. In any case, Wang Ling remembered that it was this open-ended ending that had instantly caused Father Wang's short story to take a turn. And now, it seemed that Father Wang was writing a sequel to Brother Gluten and the Wandering Poet. Wang Ling sneaked a peek in his room. What was it like to be the son of a deadly author? It was like being one step ahead of everyone else to try something new. It was obvious that Father Wang had thought about this story for a long time. He didn't get stuck at all as he typed, and after roughly an hour, he finished writing the short story. While Father Wang was checking for typos, Wang Ling took the opportunity to watch the sequel to Brother Gluten and Wandering Poet 2. In this story, Father Wang revealed the reason why the Wandering Poet had left without saying goodbye back then. The second story said, on the eve of Brother Gluten's victory that year, the Wandering Poet learned that someone wanted to harm him. In order to protect his good brother, the Wandering Poet prayed in front of the barbecue stall. He was willing to never eat gluten again in this life for Brother Gluten's safety. This move moved Daoist Maiba, who showed up and told the Wandering Poet away. As long as the Wandering Poet was willing to split himself into 6 spirit stones representing power, time, space, soul, reality and spirit, he would be able to unleash the power of praying to the fullest. If one day, someone could gather these 6 spirit stones together and make them into a glove, the Wandering Poet could come back to life with a snap of their fingers. But the price was that the person who snapped their fingers. Chapter 621. When Wang Ling saw the ending, it was as if he could already foresee Father Wang's sequel taking a violent turn again. This was a thought-provoking and slightly tragic ending to the sequel, but Father Wang didn't directly say that the second sequel was the end, so Wang Ling guessed that there might be a third or even a 4th episode later on. To be honest, Wang Ling was actually looking forward to this story. Unfortunately, it took a long time for Father Wang's official account to publish a new article. As a top-notch online guru, Father Wang actually didn't need to be like other public accounts that chased after hot topics to quickly create articles to gain attention. Furthermore, Wang Ling had in fact heard Father Wang mention some public accounts that would use unscrupulous means to gain attention, such as the recently banned official account called Second Update Sugar. In Father Wang's view, the Second Update Sugar ending was both a success and a failure. In the end, it was all for the sake of 100,000 plus readers. Unscrupulous means to gain attention for the sake of 100,000 plus readers wasn't desirable in itself. In contrast, Wang Ling suddenly felt that Father Wang's figure had grown taller. Even though Father Wang took a long time to publish an article on his official account, any one of his articles would have more than 1 million readers. For a lot of people, they had something to look forward to every day. They might not be able to achieve a small target of 100 million, but at the very least, they had to make themselves happy, to smile happily and contentedly every day, and to face tomorrow with a smile. This had always been Father Wang's original intention in writing his books. At this thought, Wang Ling couldn't help pondering what he was looking forward to. Although he might not be able to achieve his small goal of perfectly controlling his primordial qi right now, eating a bag of gluten-flavored crispy noodle snacks was still achievable. After reading Father Wang's story about Brother Gluten, for some reason, Wang Ling suddenly wanted to eat roasted gluten. When Odd Zhua had become Wang Ling's apprentice, he had given Wang Ling a gold card to the flagship store. Every month, Wang Ling would ask the Crispy Noodle Snack flagship store how to customize a special flavor of crispy noodle snacks, and this month's quota was reserved for the roasted gluten flavor. Wang Ling sent his request to the VIP email address on the gold card, and very quickly, the customer service girl from the flagship store replied, "Respected Mr. Wang Ling, we have received your request. We will make a box of your customized roasted gluten flavor crispy noodle snacks within the next few days and send it to you as soon as possible." Perfect. Just looking at this message gave Wang Ling a great sense of satisfaction. Things had piled up recently, and it was very easy for people to turn their worries into appetites when they were vexed, so consuming crispy noodle snacks was an alternative way for him to relieve stress. However, this did not mean that the trouble would be resolved just like that. After sending the message, he carefully sorted out his thoughts. There were a few things that needed to be done. The first was President Bai of the Demon Hunters Association, who was on the run. The second was the mysterious informant who had exposed the Demon Hunters Association, President Bai, and the force behind them. Wang Ming had previously tracked down the informant's location, and had sent the message from number 60 High's computer room, but he still couldn't find out who had done it. The third was the angler that loopy toad and immortal Genuine had learned about from Demon Saint on top of the holy pillar in the demon world. Of all the people Wang Ling had come into contact with so far, this angler was the most dangerous one because the other party was clearly very proficient in controlling primordial qi. And finally, the fourth matter was the summer camp that Wang Ling was going to attend. Wang Ling actually didn't think that there was anything wrong with this, but after Super Chen's baffling words, he instantly felt that he might be tricked again at this activity. Super Chen's mouth was a classic example of someone who had been blessed, and there were times when you really couldn't not believe it. While he was deep in thought, Wang Ling suddenly felt a pair of hands reach out from nothingness to cover his eyes, and then he heard evil laughter. "Guess who I am?" Wang Ling, this was Wang Ming's voice. This guy had used a projection to stroll around here again. Wang Ling pulled the fingers off his face and stared at the young man in front of him expressionlessly. Lying on the ground, Loopy Toad lazily opened its eyes. Surprised? When Wang Ling turned his head, he saw Wang Ming staring at him with a mouth full of white teeth. In less than 4 short days, Wang Ming had once again made a breakthrough in his Heavenly East satellite virtual body projection technology. The last time, Wang Ming had actually already been able to remotely materialize the fingers of his virtual body, and when they met again today, Wang Ling realized that Wang Ming had already materialized his entire arm. Looking at Wang Ling's stunned expression, Wang Ming smiled. "I reckon that I'll be able to materialize half of my body by the end of next month." The corners of Wang Ling's mouth twitched. This was too fast, but Wang Ming then said, "Actually, this technology isn't very mature yet. Don't look at how I've materialized both my arms now, they actually won't last for long." As soon as Wang Ming said this, Wang Ling saw his originally materialized arms instantly wilt like withered flowers. It didn't seem to last more than a minute. Wang Ming's expression showed that he had long since predicted this. "Look, Wang Ling, even if I can materialize more than half of my body later, it'll actually be a problem for how long?" In the satellite projection, Wang Ming sighed. "Of course, I didn't come to talk to you about this today. Didn't I ask you to take the collector to Drought Star to collect energy sources? The appraisal results are out." Wang Ling and Loopy Toad raised their eyelids, their expressions strangely identical. "The data report is still in the lab, so I'll tell you about it verbally first." Wang Ming cupped his chin and said, "The energy source collected in the collector last time can be determined to be primordial qi without a doubt. Although it's less concentrated than the one extracted from your body, after comparison, we found that it basically matches the characteristics of primordial qi. Also, this primordial qi is a little strange. It seems to be mixed with something else, and doesn't seem like the primordial qi of a human cultivator." "You can even detect this?" Loopy Toad was a little astonished. "Of course." Wang Ming said, "Even between cultivators and spirit beasts, there are subtle differences in spirit energy. To be precise, all the energy sources had a very small difference. That's because they circulate in different ways. But these differences are very subtle, and can only be detected by an instrument, unless it's the perception of an almighty. But it's also very strange, the source of this primordial qi doesn't seem to be human or spirit beast." Chapter 622. If this primordial qi came from the prehistoric vicious beast that the mysterious angler was raising, then it meant that the angler had once released a prehistoric vicious beast on Drought Star. Given the current situation, immortal Genuine, who was repairing Drought Star, might be in danger. Wang Ling and Loopy Toad thought of this at the same time, and couldn't help frowning as they cupped their chins and pondered. Wang Ming didn't know what on earth these two guys were thinking, but he thought this scene was a little interesting. It was said that when a dog was raised for a long time, its behavior would be surprisingly similar to its owners. It was very obvious that Dog 2 and Wang Ling's master-servant rapport was already very high. Even their expressions and movements when they were thinking were exactly the same. Wang Ming sighed heartily. "Lingzi, your Dog 2 is looking more and more like you." Wang Ling, Loopy Toad, Wang Ming didn't dare stay for too long. The satellite remote projection technology actually wasn't perfect yet, and this technology actually hadn't been completely open to the public yet. The reason why Wang Ming could use it was because he had the patent card for this technology, which was equivalent to an authority card. Sometimes, with authority, you could indeed do whatever you wanted. But when all was said and done, this wasn't a very compliant operation. With so many people watching him in the lab recently, Wang Ming didn't want to cause trouble for old Qi, so he didn't dare stay for too long each time he used the remote projection technology. That was because Jia Yin was keeping an eye on him. If he was discovered, he would definitely be reported. He realized that Jia Yin was actually a person who held a grudge against him until now because he hadn't wanted to eat those pork chops. Wang Ming had initially thought that their relationship had improved a little, but after old Qi had been sent to the hospital and Jia Yin wasn't allowed to cook in the lab, Jia Yin's attitude toward him had become colder by the day. He didn't even need to sense his aura. As long as Wang Ming felt a sudden chill, it meant that Jia Yin was within 10 meters of him and couldn't run away. Although Wang Ming was very reluctant to admit it, he had to admit that Jia Yin seemed to be controlling him a little. Wang Ming believed that with his brain, he could instantly solve a difficult cultivation equation, but when it came to relationships, he really couldn't figure them out. What he feared the most was people playing a cold war with him. Wang Ming remembered that when he and Wang Ling quarreled as kids, Wang Ling liked to give him the cold war. Wang Ming remembered that every time, it was Wang Ming who would put down his pride and apologize first. On one hand, he hated the feeling of a cold war. On the other hand, Wang Ming felt that for better or worse, he was an older brother. After calming down, there was actually no harm in being modest and giving in to his little brother. But the problem was that Jia Yin was now in a cold war with him, which instantly left him at a loss. What should he do? Apologize? But the problem was that he didn't feel that he had done anything wrong. Before leaving, Dog 2 saw Wang Ming's distressed expression and looked at him. Did you quarrel with that Miss Jai? No. Wang Ming waved his hand. In fact, he didn't know whether this counted as a quarrel or not. Jia Yin was still the same as before. She would be very considerate in protecting his safety, but the pressure was clearly much lower than before. Wang Ming sighed and spread his hands. Since old Qi banned her from cooking, we've been in a cold war. I don't know why, but I haven't offended her. How long? Less than a week, Loopy Toad thought for a moment. Think carefully, did you offend her in any way? How would I dare offend her? Wang Ming had a very aggrieved expression on his face as he looked at Loopy Toad earnestly. And let me tell you, I even went to comfort her. Hearing this, Wang Ling was startled. This dumbass straight man actually knew how to comfort people? Loopy Toad. How did you comfort her? Wang Ming, I told her to drink more hot water. Loopy Toad, Wang Ling, considering that immortal Zhenyuan might be in danger, Wang Ling and Dog 2 discussed countermeasures that night. Although they couldn't be 100% sure that the primordial Qi had come from the primordial vicious beast that the mysterious angler had raised, it was better to nip it in the bud. But there was a saying that prevention was better than cure. Wang Ling felt that he should give immortal Zhenyuan some basic safety guarantees. Wang Ling opened 8 classes of divine weapons again. This was the only original copy in the world, and it had been a gift from Father Wang's strongest fan. Last time, Wang Ling had refined a pile of soul suppression rings, and had even produced a very rare world-defying premium item. Considering the dangerous nature of the primordial vicious beast that the angler had raised, if Wang Ling wanted to forge a magic weapon for immortal Zhenyuan, his first choice would have to be even more ferocious than these dangerous primordial vicious beasts. Thus, Wang Ling's gaze finally settled on a magic weapon that looked very much like a hammer. This magic weapon was very special. It wasn't a long-term magic weapon, and it could only be used a limited number of times. The soul suppression ring that Wang Ling had given grenade throwing before was a long-term magic weapon. Generally speaking, this type of magic weapon had an energy storage function, and could store spirit energy inside. When it was time to use it, it could be released all at once to achieve an explosive effect. Loopy Toad's eyes lit up slightly as it already had an idea. In fact, to put it simply, this type of magic weapon could completely be used as a sure kill technique. What's the origin of this hammer? Loopy Toad couldn't help asking. Wang Ling crooked his finger and turned the page. Then, one man and one dog looked at the information on this hammer magic weapon. Name of magic weapon, 3 views shattering hammer main material, passion iron creator, a smelly and shameless fatty surnamed Luo who doesn't know anything about hammers. Creator's description, life doesn't stop, death doesn't stop. Perhaps this isn't the most perfect magic weapon. But it has my, fatty Luo's, passion, Loopy Toad, Wang Ling, passion iron. What was that? Loopy Toad did a search on its phone and realized that this passion iron wasn't of a low grade, and even surpassed the magnetic stone that grenade-throwing senior immortal had brought back then. Although it wasn't an extinct material, it wasn't easy to get your hands on it. It could probably only be sold on some cultivation black markets. But the problem was, where would little Master Ling get the money? Where can we get the passion stone? Loopy Toad was puzzled. Without saying anything else, Wang Ling straightaway used spirit energy to construct golden lines on the ground to draw a smooth magic array. Dog 2's expression froze when it saw this magic array. This is... It felt like it had seen this magic array somewhere before. Wang Ling said telepathically, this is a refinement array. Loopy Toad, Wang Ling, equivalent exchange, alchemy's unchanging principle. Loopy Toad, as soon as he said this, Wang Ling pulled open a drawer and threw the complete set of 3-5 into it. Loopy Toad. Chapter 623. So there was this kind of operation. Dog 2 stared blankly at the scene in front of it. But little Master Ling was probably the only one who could use this kind of array, because the equivalent exchange, refinement array itself was in fact making a deal with the heavenly Tao. But how many people in this world were qualified to negotiate with the heavenly Tao directly like this? Even if someone knew how to draw the refinement array and offered up an offering for the transaction, the heavenly Tao might not respond. But Loopy Toad was a little puzzled. Since the refinement array could be used, why had grenade-throwing senior immortal specially brought the magnetic stones the last time? At that moment, Wang Ling looked at Loopy Toad. It was obvious that he had heard Dog 2's thoughts, and he immediately said telepathically, because I didn't finish the last exam paper. Loopy Toad had a look of sudden realization on its face. So that was it, but it understood the reason. But why did he have to use a set of completed 3-5 test papers to make a deal with the heavenly Tao? To tell the truth, Loopy Toad didn't think that this set of 3-5 test papers could be exchanged for the priceless passion stone. A passion stone was so much more valuable than the 3-5 test papers in cultivation education bookstores, it couldn't be measured at all. Could a set of 3-5 test papers buy a house of 150 square meters in a second-tier city? Of course not, but the passion stone could. If there were 5 passion stones, you could even buy a 4-square-meter toilet in a first-tier city. That was the difference. But in the end, Loopy Toad still underestimated the value of these 3-5 test papers. Not long after the 3-5 test papers were thrown into the array, Loopy Toad saw them turn into golden particles of light and disappear into nothingness. The heavenly Tao had actually accepted them. A moment later, the refinement array emitted a faint light, and then a 3-inch little person with golden light all over its body appeared in the center of the array. You are. Loopy Toad was indescribably amazed as it gazed at the little person, as if something had tugged at its heartstrings. It vaguely had an answer in its mind, but it didn't dare believe it and didn't even dare say it out loud. The golden 3-inch man didn't speak, but a voice rang out in Dog 2's mind. I am the heavens, the Tao, the God, and the world. This voice was devoid of sorrow or joy, but it was so majestic that it made Loopy Toad's green fur stand on end. There was no deliberate intimidation, but there was a kind of power that made people feel fear from the depths of their souls. Wang Ling raised his eyebrows, crouched down, and gently stroked Loopy Toad. Loopy Toad immediately felt the tension in its body disappear and its breathing gradually stabilize. Loopy Toad actually hadn't dared make up its mind before, but after the golden 3-inch man's explanation, it already had a fairly certain answer in its heart. this golden 3-inch man was none other than the embodiment of the 3,000 great spells. It could also be called the embodiment of the will of the heavenly Tao. That heart-palpitating power just now was still fresh in Dog 2's memory. Because it now had the power of Sword Tao in its body, it was very sensitive to heavenly Tao. As it turned out, it wasn't just Dog 2. Loopy Toad also noticed that in Little Master Ling's bedroom, the two gremlins' pen and eraser on the table, Pillow Fairy on the bed, and Lord Ma in the toilet, all of them were trembling slightly at the same time. Dog 2 was well aware that all the gremlins who had been enlightened by Little Master Ling had a heavenly Tao in their bodies, so this kind of reaction wasn't strange at all. After soothing Loopy Toad's emotions, Wang Ling patted its butt lightly and had Dog 2 move to one side. Then, he sat down cross-legged and faced the golden 3-inch man. This scene was especially magical, as if it had been a lifetime ago. Wang Ling's expression didn't change in the slightest, and he didn't show any emotion even in front of the golden 3-inch man. Who could withstand this kind of enormous mental pressure when facing the embodiment of heavenly Tao? Dog 2 marveled in its heart. Little Master Ling was probably the only one who could do this. This scene was in fact very shocking, especially for someone who had mastered one or more heavenly Tao. Given their sensitivity to heavenly Tao, both the pressure and the shock would intensify. Loopy Toad had wanted to take a picture of this scene with its phone to show Little Silver how powerful its master was. But to Loopy Toad's dismay, it realized that its phone actually didn't have any signal and was without internet. This golden 3-inch man embodiment of heavenly Tao probably had the ability to interfere with the internet every time Wang Ling and the golden 3-inch man faced each other. Neither of them spoke, and instead entered a small heavenly Tao domain to converse. This was different from the mind-reading ability, which was an ability to sense the other party's thoughts and could also be used to capture other people's telepathic communication. But it was absolutely safe in this small heavenly Tao domain. Even the mind-reading ability couldn't detect what on earth the person in the heavenly Tao domain was saying. But Face found that his cell phone was not connected to the internet, which was largely due to the influence of the Heavenly Way realm. In fact, this wasn't the golden 3-inch man and Wang Ling's first transaction, and they were very familiar with each other. Dozens of seconds later, the golden 3-inch man opened his hand, and the 3-5 test paper that Wang Ling had offered up as a sacrifice floated in his hand. This handwritten letter filled with heavenly Tao has already reached the standard. He looked at Wang Ling and asked, "What flavor of crispy noodle snacks do you want to trade for?" Wang Ling had drawn the refinement array several times before in order to trade for crispy noodle snacks. It was as if the golden 3-inch man already knew this youngster's temperament. Wang Ling said telepathically, "I want a passion stone." The golden 3-inch man was blank. He felt that the youngster's taste was a little heavy. "You want passion stone flavored crispy noodle snacks?" Wang Ling. "Just a passion stone." The golden 3-inch man suddenly understood, and at the same time felt a little excited. After so many years, this youngster had finally learned to trade for something else. Actually, when all was said and done, the golden 3-inch man felt that this was all his fault. He recalled when this youngster in front of him was a child. That was about 13 years ago. That day, 3-year-old Wang Ling had drawn the refinement array. When the golden 3-inch man had appeared, he had seen Wang Ling's hand-drawn children's oil painting, and had been utterly shaken. The golden 3-inch man had used a crispy noodle snack packet to trick Wang Ling into giving him the children's oil painting. Just like that, 3-year-old Wang Ling had eaten the first crispy noodle snack packet in his life, and then, after that, Wang Ling would come looking for him to trade every few days. Back then, if he hadn't intentionally led this youngster to that crispy noodle snack flagship store, he would probably still have been harassed. Thinking this, the golden 3-inch man felt a lingering fear in his heart. He had to admit that he was the root of all evil. But fortunately, it seemed that no one else knew. Chapter 624. Wang Ling remembered that he had suddenly dreamed of the equivalent exchange array as a child, just like the heavenly Tao that he had gradually comprehended as he grew up. When he was 3, Wang Ling had awakened very few heavenly Tao, but he had never felt the slightest bit afraid when facing the golden 3-inch man. If the golden 3-inch man was the embodiment of the will of heavenly Tao, then what on earth was he? This was a question that Wang Ling had been pondering all these years. There had to be a reason why he was able to sit here and face the embodiment of the will of heavenly Tao without the slightest fluctuation in his state of mind. As for monsters like Butt Face and Ha who had been enlightened by him, it was normal for them to feel touched or even afraid. This was an existence formed from the will of the 3,000 great Tao. Even if it didn't reveal its aura, just by sitting there, it was already able to display a great majesty. Although it was only 3 inches long, it contained a vast amount of energy. The golden 3-inch man was very pleased because he finally felt that after 13 years, the youngster in front of him had finally used himself on the right path. The sentiment stone was a very precious type of stone, and was classified as a second-level resource item. But it hadn't reached the point where it was extinct. Thus, Wang Ling's 3-5 test paper was absolutely qualified to be used in exchange. All resource items could be divided into 10 grades. Wang Ling's handwritten book could be exchanged for a first-level resource. If it was an extinct resource, the price would have to be increased. So in summary, the golden 3-inch man had approved of this transaction. Very quickly, the golden 3-inch man stretched out his hand, and specks of light blossomed on his small palm like a gorgeous flower. A grayish-blue hexagonal spirit stone appeared in his palm. This was the sentiment stone that Wang Ling needed. Based on the 3-5 test paper's valuation, the golden 3-inch man had produced 6 stones in one go and given them all to Wang Ling. Dog 2 had been secretly observing from behind, and felt that this equivalent exchange array was too convenient. Furthermore, he had actually managed to get 6 stones. 6 stones? This was also a little unexpected for Wang Ling. This wasn't the first time he had done the 3-5 test paper. He had actually been doing it since junior high school. There were a lot of questions that were beyond the syllabus, which he had come up with on his own so that it would be easier to make a deal with the heavenly Tao. Based on a conservative estimate, Wang Ling estimated that he would be able to exchange for 3 of them, which was just enough to make the 3 view-shattering hammer. Now that he had 6 of them, the extra 3 could be used to make something else. It was going to be Wang Ming's birthday soon, and Wang Ling felt that he could use these 3 emotion stones to make permanent armor for Wang Ming. This time, the handwritten book you sacrificed is the elite enhanced version. That's why he got 5, the golden 3-inch man said. It turned out that increasing the difficulty could increase the value. Realization dawned on Wang Ling. It was only today that he knew about this. As for why you got 6, the 6th one is an extra reward. The golden 3-inch man said calmly, after all, this is one of the more normal deals you've made with me all these years. Wang Ling, the golden 3-inch man suddenly said, speaking of which, you should know that this equivalent exchange refining formation can be used to exchange for more than just resources, right? Wang Ling. He really hadn't known. The golden 3-inch man, apart from the resources you want, you can actually also exchange for all kinds of information. I've already seen the calamity in your life. This is the great heavenly tribulation. Even if you foresee it, the probability of you being able to resolve it is very low. But I can tell you how to resolve it. And the price? Wang Ling asked telepathically. At your current stage, the most important thing in your life, the golden 3-inch man said slowly. But even so, the golden 3-inch man didn't think that the young man would choose to make this exchange. The most important thing in life might be different for many people, but they couldn't do without family and friends, and no one would trade the lives of living people. But the law of equivalent exchange had always been cold and unforgiving, and there was no room for negotiation. Wang Ling, then I'll look for you in a few days. The golden 3-inch man? Wang Ling, the roasted gluten-flavored crispy noodle snacks will arrive in a few days. The golden 3-inch man. In the end, the golden 3-inch man was scared off by Wang Ling. Even the refinement array on the ground disappeared without a trace. Wang Ling guessed that this girl probably still hadn't recovered from the trauma of the crispy noodle snacks. But at his current stage, the most important thing in his life. Wang Ling felt that it had to be that box of custom-made roasted gluten-flavored crispy noodle snacks. He had wasted a very limited opportunity to use his membership privileges to custom make it. Not only was it a flavor that couldn't be bought outside, he hadn't even had a bite yet. What was the saying? The rarer something is, the greater its value. Wang Ling felt that this golden 3-inch man didn't know what was good for him at all, but the great heavenly tribulation that the golden 3-inch man had mentioned just now couldn't help but arouse Wang Ling's attention. The great heavenly tribulation that was coming soon. Wang Ling's gaze trembled. Could it be referring to the final exams? He really couldn't think of a tribulation that could be more lethal than the final exams. For Wang Ling, he was already used to it. Because he felt like he had been going through a tribulation every day since he was in high school, following the disappearance of the golden 3-inch man, Loopy Toad felt as if a string that had been taut in its mind had been swept away. It didn't know what the heavenly Tao had said to little Master Ling, but for some reason, it felt like Wang Ling's eyes were a little solemn. Wang Ling didn't think too much about it. After all, the great heavenly tribulation hadn't happened yet, and he hadn't sensed any omens. It was fine as long as he kept an eye on it. There was no point in thinking too much about it. Right now, it was more important to make this 3-view-shattering hammer. Wang Ling snapped his fingers, and the microwave oven on the first floor instantly teleported into the room. Just like the last time, the first step was to use the enchanted microwave oven to smelt the materials. Wang Ling threw in the 3 emotion stones. The moment they completely melted into liquid, Wang Ling turned on the microwave oven, and the liquid inside floated in the air under the effect of the traction spell before swirling into a liquid ball. Then, the great weapon refining spell was instantly activated. With a burst of bright light, a small black and gold hammer swiftly appeared in front of Wang Ling's eyes. The shape of this hammer was very strange. It was actually a flat design. The hammer head was very big, but the middle was completely flat. There seemed to be a mechanism at the end of the hammer head. Loopy Toad saw Wang Ling fiddle with it, and the flat middle part of the hammer head actually instantly popped open. Chapter 625. Although the design of this 3-view-shattering hammer seemed a little strange and avant-garde, the fact that it had appeared in 8 classes of divine weapons and was included in it proved just how unusual this little hammer was. Furthermore, limited-use magic weapons often had an even more exaggerated and terrifying instantaneous burst of power than permanent magic weapons. Wang Ling carefully examined the result of the forging. The quality of the forging this time was pretty outstanding. This 3-view-shattering hammer was a first-class holy weapon. However, Wang Ling estimated that after some slight modifications, it would be able to unleash world-defying power. The clamshell in the middle of the hammer wasn't an unnecessary design, but a groove for an energy source. This was also an important reason why Wang Ling had specially chosen this hammer as Immortal Jinyuan's defensive magic weapon. Because he could inject his primordial qi into the hammer. If the primordial qi that Wang Ming had detected on Drought Star really had been left behind by a prehistoric vicious beast that the mysterious angler had reared, then he would definitely be at a huge disadvantage in a fight using spirit qi. They were both energy sources, and spirit qi was nothing in the face of primordial qi. Although Immortal Jinyuan's body could produce some primordial qi, his main energy source was still spirit qi. Wang Ling had already confirmed this when he had fought Wind Spirit on Drought Star the last time. As for those unknown prehistoric vicious beasts, the way they drove their energy could freely change depending on their environment. They completely used primordial qi as their main energy source, and Immortal Jinyuan definitely wouldn't be their match in a real fight. The most important thing was that Wang Ling didn't know what on earth that mysterious angler wanted to do, but it was better to be prepared. This 3-view-shattering hammer would be a great help to Immortal Jinyuan. Wang Ling raised his eyebrows and injected primordial qi into the hammer, filling it to the brim. When the energy source was full, Loopy Toad saw that the middle of the hammer's head actually bulged out like a balloon. This hammer can be used 5 times at most. Wang Ling gave the hammer to Loopy Toad and said telepathically, "Take this hammer to Drought Star with Little Silver." Dog 2 was blank and tilted its head. "Why are you asking him?" "I want him to find the angler," Wang Ling said telepathically. But Face was confused by her words, and he didn't understand what she meant. But Wang Ling was as clear as a mirror in his heart, because in theory, holy beasts and prehistoric vicious beasts were on the same level. The reason why prehistoric vicious beasts were called prehistoric vicious beasts was because they had very low spiritual intelligence, but were superior in terms of lethality. Holy beasts, on the other hand, were the complete opposite. Holy beasts' cultivation speed was very slow, but their spiritual intelligence was already activated the moment they were born. The attributes of the primordial vicious beasts and the sacred beasts were more like the 8 trigrams, each with its own merits. The reason why he had asked Little Silver to track the prehistoric vicious beast was partly out of consideration of balance. Prehistoric vicious beasts were extremely sensitive to holy beast blood. If Little Silver was present, he would be a deterrent. On the other hand, Little Silver could also take this opportunity to smear the holy beast's blood on it and reverse track it. Holy beast blood was extraordinary, and Little Silver could use it to track someone. Wang Ling had already noticed this as early as the last time Little Silver had come to offer his holy beast blood for Loopy Toad's medicinal bath. Buttface looked at the small hammer. "Do you have an instruction manual?" "Yes." Wang Ling flipped open the 8 classes of divine weapons again. The instruction manuals for all the magic weapons were in the latter half of the book, like a dictionary that had been sorted into alphabetical groups at the back of the book. He had initially chosen this magic artifact because it could store energy, but even he himself didn't know what the hammer's specific function was. Master and servant flipped to the page of the instruction manual and began to look at the small hammer's specific function. The instruction manual read, 8 classes of divine weapons, Refiner's instruction manual for the 3 views shattering hammer, developer. Explanation 1. Original design intent. This product was designed in an era when there are more and more permanent magic weapons. In an era when limited magic weapons aren't receiving much attention, our Refiner design team, led by Qingwei Luo, designed the 3 views shattering hammer, a powerful limited magic weapon. Its powerful energy storage spirit energy enables it to retain the powerful potential that a permanent magic weapon wouldn't be able to display in a fight against a strong enemy. This product's greatest advantage is its extremely explosive power and abundant number of uses. When the energy of this product is fully charged, it can be used up to 10 times, far exceeding the number of uses of conventional limited magic weapons. Description 2. Product effect. This magic design was inspired by the famous master of modesty, Emperor Rang Yen Juanzi. 1. Passive effect, forced fairness. When this product is used for the first time, the hammer wielder will automatically trigger the forced fairness effect. The more powerful the energy source, the stronger the suppression. The opponent will fall into a state of fair duel, so that they won't be able to display their original strength, making it easier for them to win in battle. The power of all the enemy's attacks will be weakened by several times, and the enemy will enter a weakened state. The hammer wielder will appear to be even more explosive. 2. Active effect. The Rang, all living beings are equal. This skill will be used once. To use the corresponding skill, the user must silently recite the corresponding incantation. When the Rang, all living beings are equal, effect is triggered, the hammer wielder will forcibly expand the area of fair duel, and all the enemies in the vicinity will be forced into a state of weakness, making them equal or even weaker than the user. At the same time, the light of all living beings are equal will strongly intimidate the opponent's 3 views, causing them to lose the desire to attack. 3. Active effect. The Rang, all living beings are final. This skill will be used once. When the Rang, all living beings are final, effect is triggered, the hammer wielder will hit the ground, subverting the 3 views, and enter a forced golden body state. Under the golden body state, all things will return to silence, and the hammer wielder will not be able to receive any physical or magical attacks, entering a state of complete immunity for 10 seconds. This effect can be removed by chanting silently. When the Rang, all living beings are final, effect is triggered, the golden light emitted by the hammer wielder can dispel the confusion and impulsiveness of his teammates, forcing them to calm down, and thus enter a Buddha nature state to return to peak combat power. Chapter 626. Master and servant stared at this explanation in silence for a long time. It had to be said that as a limited-use magic weapon, this 3-view shattering hammer indeed had a lot of functions. Furthermore, Wang Ling couldn't help thinking of a heavenly Tao called fairness. The great fairness spell he had mastered was a spell that could shorten the gap in strength between an enemy and himself. Its effect was like an enhanced version of this hammer's, all living beings are equal. But Wang Ling basically didn't have the chance to use this spell. Because for Wang Ling, this spell was actually a relatively useless heavenly Tao spell. After all, looking at his current situation, most of the enemies he faced were weaker than him. Once he used this all living beings are equal spell, he would instead weaken himself and strengthen his enemies. This spell was meant to be used in the face of a strong enemy, so Wang Ling didn't have the chance to use it at all. Suddenly, he realized that this hammer was actually pretty useful. Even if it was just a limited-use magic weapon, it was still a powerful protective magic treasure. Furthermore, after the primordial chi was poured into it, it was paired with such a marvelous magic treasure, causing its original power to be greatly increased. Loopy Toad used the swallowing spell to put the hammer away, and planned to find time to contact Little Silver that night. After all, this was a personal order from Little Master Ling, so it had to obey. The only troublesome thing was that Loopy Toad needed to explain to Little Silver about Immortal Jinyuan and Drought Star, which Little Silver didn't know about. In order to find that angler's whereabouts as soon as possible, Little Silver would undoubtedly use the holy beast blood to reverse track him. However, it was still a question mark whether it would be so easy to carry out the plan. That night, Little Silver was waiting for the express delivery at the villa. His plan to buy a collar had been delayed because of the Didi Shun Feng spirit car incident, so in the end, he still chose to buy it online. At around 8:00, the villa's doorbell rang. Little Silver opened the door and saw a disheveled courier brother standing respectfully in front of him with a package in his hands. "Hello, Mr. Little Silver, Shun Feng God Express is at your service." Oh my God, Little Silver was stupefied by the courier little brother's wretched appearance. Looking to the side, he saw a Woyang shovel at the courier's feet and a man-sized hole behind him. Little Silver. Were the Shun Feng God Express's couriers all so unconventional? Little Silver remembered reading a lot of news about couriers online, and almost all of them revolved around Shun Feng God Express couriers. These couriers always inexplicably appeared in all sorts of places, and then casually became heroes. A while ago, a network security company had been invaded by a virus, and the entire company had been helpless. A courier from Shun Feng God Express waited at the door for a long time. In the end, he personally went forward to repair the network loophole, preventing the personal security of hundreds of millions of users from being leaked. Being a courier was really a miraculous profession. Or could it be that only the courier of Shun Feng God Express was more mystical? Why didn't you go through the front door? Little Silver took the package curiously. He looked at the work ID hanging on the courier little brother's chest. The little brother's name was Liang Liang. The courier little brother smiled in distress and scratched his head. Because there was an owner in this villa estate who wanted to celebrate his girlfriend's birthday before, and he asked us to come out of the ground with a birthday cake to give her a surprise. In the end, because I wasn't very familiar with the job, I was poached to the villa security team's office. Little Silver, Liang Liang scratched his head. Then, I was blacklisted by the security guards in this area. Little Silver, then it's really been hard on you. It's fine, the customer comes first. It's my responsibility to deliver every package to the door before the courier from the new area gets here. This courier little brother called Liang Liang was very moved. Mr. Little Silver, please rest assured, I'll help you fill in the hole behind me when I leave. It'll be 100% restored, and no one will be able to tell that I've been here. Little Silver, speaking up to this point, the courier little brother suddenly said, "Oh, that's right, Mr. Little Silver, can I give you a 5-star review? We have a small gift to give away." Then, the courier little brother took out a grading device from his pocket. There were 5 buttons on it, corresponding to 5 grading options. Little Silver felt that he was actually very easy to talk to. Even if this courier little brother had been blacklisted by the security guards, He still did his best to deliver packages, so of course Little Silver wouldn't make things difficult for him. Thus, Little Silver pressed the 5-star rating button almost without thinking. "By the way, what's your small gift?" Little Silver asked after the grading was done. The small gift is based on a customer's purchase, and the system automatically calculates how relevant it is. Of course, all of this is done in the privacy of each customer. Us couriers actually don't know what the customer has bought, and are only responsible for delivering the goods. Liang Liang smiled. "Your service is too humane," Little Silver exclaimed, and then raised his pen to sign his name on the box in a flamboyant flourish. Because he had just started learning human culture, Little Silver's handwriting actually wasn't very good, but these 2 words, Little Silver, were already the best he had written. After confirming receipt, Liang Liang also took out the gift with the full score. It was a single-use storage spirit bag. Once the contents were taken out, the spirit bag would turn into flying ash and disappear. It was low carbon, environmentally friendly, and had 0 pollution. Little Silver walked in happily with the collar he had bought. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was eating his broccoli salad when he saw Little Silver walk in with the spirit bag in his hand and a doting smile on his face. Actually, he really felt that Little Silver was a very easy person to satisfy. "What's the gift?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help asking. "I don't know, I haven't seen it yet." "It's a gift that the computer system calculates based on the item's relevance," Little Silver replied. He put the express delivery box on the table, then injected spirit energy into the small silk bag in his hand. With a few flashes of spirit light, a plastic package flew out of the silk bag, and the unsealed silk bag instantly turned into flying ash. Then, a slender leather whip, a box of 6 assembled candles, and a bottle of lubricant appeared in front of Little Silver. The scariest thing was that Little Silver actually found a pink string in the plastic bag, which was actually a pair of sexy underwear. Little Silver picked up the string and turned his head to look at Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. "What's this?" You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.